What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with second part of What If Naruto Was Banished and Built His Own Village Part 2. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Standing in a vast open area, Naruto was surrounded by builders from Wave and members of the Kijin clan. He swiftly performed the Tiger Seal, followed by the Snake Seal. Mokuton Hijutsu. Jukai Koden, he called out, unleashing a potent wood release technique that caused trees to sprout from the ground. The urgency of the construction task, aimed at fortifying the village's defenses, was palpable. Before long, there was a dense forest in front of him. Alright everyone, start cutting down these trees, Tazuna called out as people got to work. Naruto turned to Abaki, and his words fostered a sense of unity among the different groups. I'm going to need the Kijin clan to help clear some of the ruins and move them over to the shrine, he said. Abaki nodded and issued orders, and the men of the sword in his clan seamlessly joined the builders in cutting down the trees, a display of teamwork that resonated with everyone present. A caw caught Naruto's ears, a sound that often signaled important news in the village. He looked up and saw that a messenger crow was descending towards them. Naruto held his arm out as the crow landed. Naruto-sama, this is from Itachi, the crow said as it handed over the scroll it had before it returned to the summoning realm. When the demigod read the scroll, he nodded and summoned a clone, who went off. Itachi and a few others have successfully aided in taking out a drug ring within the land of hot water and secured boats for us to use, Naruto said, his tone underlining the mission's importance and admiring Itachi's dedication. He did that in one day, Abaki asked, amazed as Naruto nodded. Yep, it seems that something had gotten to him, so he had to work out his anger, but he picked up 2 boats for Uzu to use, the blonde said, equally impressed by Itachi's resourcefulness and adaptability. He walked over to Tazuna, who was looking at plans. We're getting more hands to help soon, Naruto told him as the man nodded. Good, we going to need it, he said with relief. The two started to plan where things were going as they looked down at a map of the land of whirlpools. Then, Itachi walked up to them with what looked to be an army behind him, a group of skilled warriors from various clans who had joined forces for the mission. Mission complete, Uzukage-sama, Roshi said from where he stood, and Naruto smiled at him. Good work, you 6, Naruto praised the team he had sent on the mission, a sense of accomplishment evident in his voice. He then led everyone to a large wooden house that could accommodate around 100 people at a time. Hello, everyone, as you can see around you, we are building the village, and I thank you all for joining us. Now then, if any of you would like to help us, I would be more than grateful. I will make houses for you all before we make compounds for you all. Naruto told them as people smiled at him, a sense of unity filling the air. That person was a beautiful woman with a slender and voluptuous body and large breasts, reaching a height of 170 centimeters. She had long, light purple hair tied into a ponytail and dark purple eyes. Her outfit consisted of a brown robe with thick woolen borders and a collar that revealed much of her cleavage. She also wore a necklace with a green stone in the center, between 2 white rocks that looked like teeth, which were also between 2 other green stones. Thank you, Shion. If you could get the names of the clans, he said, and the woman nodded as he walked into the building with the 6 on the mission. Inside, Naruto sat behind a desk, and the 6 stood before it and looked at him. Now, as I said, good work, and while I would like to pay you for the mission, at the moment, that is not possible, but when Uzu is built, and the builders have been paid, you shall all be paid, he told them as they smiled at him and nodded. But at this moment, we are building, so, Kimimaro, Zenki, the 2 of you are going to help cut down the trees that I made for use, Naruto told them as they left to join the works. Roshi, Goki, Naka, you 3 are going to help with the heavy lifting, Naruto told them as they nodded and walked off to help the others. Oh, and on your way out, call the first group in, he said as Itachi walked out to the other side of the desk as the first group of people walked in. They were the men and women with fire orange hair, but they were all dressed in rags with nothing covering their feet. I'm the leader of the Hinotama clan. My name is Hai. A man who was as tall as Itachi with a muscular build. Some of us were farmers before we were taken by Orochimaru and was turned into this, Hai said as he pointed at myself and the others. I see, Naruto said as Itachi handed him something. The blonde pulled out glasses and read the paper with them on. From what it looks like here, Orochimaru had made it so they were all related and would be the start of a new clan that can turn your body to flames, Naruto said as he shook his head. Hai shook his head before he let out a sigh. So he made us into a ninja clan? He asked as Naruto nodded. Yes, but you don't have to be a ninja, he told them, as many breathed a sigh of relief. Now, those of you who were farmers, go with the clone of mine so that we can start to make land for your farms, Naruto told them as he summoned 3 clones. A large group of the Hinotama clan walked off with the clones. Those that want to be ninja, can I ask you all to aid in the construction in any way possible? Naruto called out as all but one woman went and joined the construction. Yes, he asked her. She was a tall woman with her hair tied back in a bob. Naruto-sama, is it possible that I cook as I am not a farmer, nor do I wish to be a ninja of this village? She asked as Naruto nodded. Yes, I'll have some clones go with you so you can start up a small area for us all to get the food on, he told her, smiling. So Naruto called out 5 clones, and she led them away. The next group consisted of people with bird-like wings. Some had wings from blackbirds, some had pure white swan-like wings, and the leader had wings resembling those of a peregrine falcon. He had gray hair and piercing yellow eyes. I am Hayabusa, and we are the Tenchi clan, the man said as the winged people looked at him. Right, did any of you have jobs before Orochimaru did his tests on any of you? Naruto asked as Itachi handed him the information about this clan in the lab. Some of us were fishermen while another lot of us were businessmen, Hayabusa said as Naruto cupped his chin in thought before he looked at the man. Have you all tried to use your new wings? He asked them as they nodded at him. Alright then, those who fished, see if you can help catch food for lunch and bring it over to the member of the Hinotama clan who is cooking with the group of my clones. He said as the group left the building to head to the water to start fishing. For the business, types of shops did you own? Naruto asked as someone with hummingbird wings walked over. She also had short green and blue hair. Hello, Naruto-sama, I am Hain, well, Hain Tenchi now, I guess, but I owned a clothing store that made clothes for people of all types, ninjas and civilians, she said as Naruto nodded. He smiled at her. Right then, Hain, if you can gather members of your new clan to find a spot where you want your shop, I can come by later and use my wood release to make one for you, Naruto told her as she and a large group walked out. Are there any other buses here? He asked them, but they shook their heads. No, the rest of us shall be your ninja, Hayabusa told him as Naruto nodded. Right, the center of the village needs clearing for the building that is going to be mined when the village is done, so you all are going to clear that portion, he said as they nodded and walked out. After they went out, the next lot of people walked in, and they were the ones with cat ears and tails. Their leader walked up, and she was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure, long snow-white hair and fur with split bangs, and hazel gold eyes with cat-like pupils. Good morning Naruto-sama, I am Shirayukihime Nekohito, and we are the Nekohito clan, Shirayukuhime said to Naruto, who nodded. Right then, do any of your clan have any jobs they did before Orochimaru did this to you? Naruto asked as Itachi handed him the paperwork for the clan. 3 people stepped forward. The first was a muscular man with what looked like tiger stripes, dark orange hair, and fur. The next look was a woman with cheetah spots with sandy blonde hair and fur. And last was another man who had orange hair with white fur. Naruto-sama, I am Tora Nekohito, and my family and I were carpenters, the man with the tiger stripes said as Naruto nodded. Alright then, you head off to help Tazuna, and anyone that wishes to help you can join as well, Naruto said as the man nodded with a group of 6 walked off. He then looked at the woman with cheetah spots. My name is Moya Nekomito, Naruto-sama, she said with a bow to Naruto, who bowed his head. I was a teacher before Orochimaru took us, and luckily, my fellow teachers are in the same clan as I, so we were wondering if you could make a school, she said as Naruto nodded at her. Yes, a school is under construction near the Uzukage building, Naruto told her as she smiled. I'll call you later so we can design the school and what is needed. Can you and the other teachers lead some aid in the building for now? He asked as Moya turned around and talked with the others before turning back with a smile. Yes, she said with a nod. Alright, go speak with Tazuna and ask him where we've put the school so that you all can have an estimate on how big it will be, Naruto said as the teachers left with a smile. He turned to the last person who walked up. My name is Shishi, Naruto-sama, and my story is like Moya, with the exception that we were doctors and nurses and medical ninja, he said as Naruto nodded before he told him the same as he told Moya, and Shishi walked out with a group. Now then, are the rest of you all right with helping with the construction? Naruto asked them as they all nodded, and the demigod gave them their orders as they left. Then, for the rest of the day, Naruto gave people jobs and sent them to other parts of the village to aid others in the construction. The next day, Land of Lakes, border of Taki. Kisame and Izumi were around the border as they both looked in. Is there any sign of anyone? Kisame asked his partner, who shook her head. No, but we have to get past that waterfall, Izumi said as she pointed to a waterfall that acted as the main gate to the village. Kisame nodded, and the two made their way closer to the waterfall before they sensed someone approaching them. So they hid once more as two Taki ninja walked past. So have you heard what happened in Konoha? The kunoichi asked as they passed the two. Know what? The man asked. They had their elders executed yesterday, and they had their crimes read out. One of them was that they made sure that the Uchiha clan would form a coup d'état, she said as they passed them as the man shook his head before they walked fully past as Kisame and Izumi looked at each other in amazement before they continued walking. Are you going to be alright? Kisame asked Izumi, who turned to him. After we're done on this mission and when we're in Uzu, I will freak out, she told him as he nodded at her. They moved past the waterfall silently near the wall as they exited before looking around. They walked around the small village as they took stock of everything before they spotted what they came for. A large tree that sat in the middle of the village. The two looked at each other before they made their way over to the tree. Hood up, Izumi said as they covered their bodies with hoods and moved to a shop across from the tree with guards around it. And from what they could see, it looked like it was made into a house. How bad does Taki treat them? Izumi asked Kisame, who looked at the tree. People who've hurt her are given a pat on the back, but they do not go out of their way to do so, he said as the Uchiha nodded at him. She is not allowed to walk around the village alone. She must always have a Taki ninja with her, and she is not allowed to go shopping or anything, Kisame added as Izumi nodded. She looked at the tree before she gained an idea. I have a plan, she said as Kisame turned to her. You and a few of my clones form a distraction within the village. Make it look like Konoha is making trouble, takes the blame off Uzu, Izumi said as Kisame smiled as he looked down at Samahata. I'll use a transformation to change myself into an Anbu, and I wonder if your clones could do the same, he asked, and Izumi nodded. They both walked out and found a silent spot where no one would be watching them. Izumi crossed her fingers and created 3 clones that turned into Anbu, complete with full body cloaks and different animal masks. Kisame then looked at the transformation and turned it into one similar to the others. Wait for my signally, he said as he moved out with the clones. And so she waited, and waited. She kept her ears open. Before everyone, head to the west area. A large fire has broken out. Konoha Anbu has been seen in that area. A ninja called out as the guards started to run towards the west area, leaving one guard alone. But before another could join, Izumi moved in with a kunai quickly and cut the throat of the Taki ninja before moving forward towards the guard. Said the guard, looked shocked, and before they could react, Izumi was on them with 2 kunai and snapped his neck, killing him in one go. She looked at the body of the ninja she had killed before grabbing the body and putting it onto her shoulder and then walking into the house as she saw the Jinchuriki looking back at her in shock. They were a petite, tan-skinned teenage girl who wore an orange clip in her short, layered mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Who are you? She asked as she pressed her back against the wall of her house and looked at the dead kunoichi on the Izumi's shoulder. My name is Izumi Uchiha, and I am a member of Uzukage. I am here to set you free and ask you to join us, she told the girl as Izumi set the body down. Why? She asked as Izumi smiled at her. Because we can help you, she said as the girl still looked apprehensive. How do I know that you're telling the truth? She asked, looking at Izumi. Who smiled and said something that made the Jinchuriki's eyes widen. Kurama is asking for the lucky number 7 to join so that they can aid the sage chosen, Izumi said. Fu, join her, the girl heard in her head. Nanabi, she asked the beat within her. The only way that this woman knows the name Kurama is by that fox allowing her to say it, and he hates the Uchiha, So by her saying it means that he trusts her, the Nanabi said to his host, who nodded. I get my things, Fu said as she started to get her things. While Izumi started to get to work, she pulled out some dye and began to turn the hair color of the kunoichi's hair green, the same shade as Fu's. They have a spare set of clothes, Izumi asked as she stripped the kunoichi's body. Why? She asked as she looked at the dead body. Old trick to stop people coming after someone they are going to save. Make another body look like the target had been killed while they escape, Izumi explained. Oh, give me a few seconds, Fu said as she walked over to her closet and gave Izumi the clothes so she got to work dressing the body while Fu fished, gathering her things. Everything is ready, Izumi said as she looked outside and found that no guards were on their way back, so she opened the door and led Fu out before she turned around and breathed out a massive fireball that set the tree on fire. Shall we? Izumi said as she summoned a clone, which was dispelled, and the two started to run towards the gate. Or rather, Izumi ran. Fu formed wings out of her back and flew. As they reached the gate, they found Kisame waiting for them, so the three made their way out of the village and through the trees before any of Taki's anbu was put on their trail. Home? Izumi asked Kisame, who nodded. Home, he said as the three made their way back as they made their way to the sea. Land of Bean Jam, Azuki Town. The group of four made their way across the land and followed where Jiraiya's spies told them where they were going. So what can you tell me about this clan? Amaru asked as they walked. They are called the Tsuchi clan, and they known for their use of blood release, allowing them to use it for both medical ninjutsu and normal ninjutsu, Tamari said as they walked across the town. So why are you looking for my clan? A female voice said behind them. They turned to see a teenager around Temari's age with jet black hair and blood-red eyes looking at them. She wore black hakama pants with dark blue sandals and a kimono top. We are ninja for the land of whirlpools and we are here to ask if your clan would like to join our village, Han said as he handed a scroll over to the woman. The woman looked at the scroll before she looked at each of them before turning around. Follow me, she said as she walked to the village's far side. They walked to the other side and soon found many people sitting around before a woman asked, Why have you brought these people here, Shizuku? The woman asked as she was dressed in a kimono. Mother, they bring a scroll that offers us a home, Shizuku said as she handed over the scroll to her mother, who opened it and read it over. Once the woman had read it over, she looked at the four. Can I have a drop of blood from one of you to see if you are speaking the truth? The woman said as Tamari walked forward and offered her hand. The woman pulled out a needle and pricked Temari's finger and let a drop of blood form, Ketan. Omoide Kamichi, she called as she formed the bird seal and she stuck out her tongue as the drop of blood floated off Temari's finger, and slashed onto the woman's tongue. The group from Uzu watched as the woman's eyes zoned out but seemed to be following something. After a few moments, her eyes returned to normal. Everyone gather your things, we're heading towards Uzu, the woman said as she stood up. My name is Umichi, she bowed to the four. The four bowed back to her, and they helped the others to gather up their things. The next day, land of whirlpools, Uzu. Many of the rubble had been moved away from the site to the shrine, where it was being made into stone tablets with names etched onto them. They had started building the village from the inside out. The bones of the Uzukage building were placed with the workers welding steel beams, and a large wall was set around it. Groups of houses and compounds were being built within different parts of the village. The two main bridges that moved over the river that cut through the village had the repairs starting. The school had the first floor made with the hospital doing the same amount of work. The Kijin clan were leading their aid to the workers on the west side as they helped with making a garden that they were making. The farmer members of the Hintatama clan were plotting out farmland for different crops, and the rest of the clan was on the east side, helping with the welding and melting materials. The fishermen from the Tenchi clan swooped into the sea and started catching large amounts of fish, while the rest helped by carrying equipment and supplies hire for the builders. The teachers from the Nekohito clan were at the school, having all the children from each clan and ensuring that they were caught up on everything. The medics from the Nekohito clan also treated people at the hospital, with the rest acting as runners, delivering messages, or helping with the woodwork. The rest of the clans that the others had help from Orochimaru were buzzing around the village doing jobs. It seems that everything is going well for the moment, Itachi said as they looked at Uzu's map. The next part will be the shopping district, he said as Naruto nodded. Good, we'll have Hain set up her shop there so that she can pick where she wants it, Naruto said as he looked out the window of his building and saw all the houses with black and red tiles on each roof. How is the food situation at the moment? He asked Itachi, who did some math in his head. If we stay at this pace, we should have Enga food for the next month or two, he said as Naruto rubbed his chin in thought. How many genin did you say we had? Naruto asked as Itachi raised a brow. I have not had the chance to go through everyone at the moment, but we have at the moment, 19, he said before he saw Naruto gain a thinking look. What? He asked. Uzu's land is rich for harvesting land for crops, Naruto said as he pulled out a bag of coins. This bag hold as you can see coins. 12 coins that are wishes from the Olympian gods. I can spend 1 coin on 1 wish as the coin can only work with the god that holds that symbol, he said as he laid the coins face down to show the symbols on the back. Why are you telling me this? Itachi asked as Naruto lifted one of the coins that showed a cycle and what? By flipping this coin now and asking the goddess of harvest, I can ask for all our harvests to be plateful, Naruto said as Itachi nodded. And that would mean that all the food we plant, no matter what we grow, will always produce enough to feed the village, he said as Itachi nodded, still not getting it. So, say I sent out a team to get fruit trees for the Hinotama clan to plant, Naruto said as Itachi's eyes widened and he smiled. Then we can always have food on hand and in a market, and with us training our fruits to Iwa and Suna, he said as Naruto nodded. We can then gather more seeds for other types of fruits or vegetables to be grown, Naruto said as he looked at Itachi solemnly. So I will need someone of Jonin level and 3 Genin levels for the first team in Uzu, and I thank God for Kurobe, Naruto said as he showed the team the headbands with a spiral, the mirror of the Uzumaki clan symbol. I'll get them, he said with a nod and walked out. Naruto got 4 headbands ready and looked through some paperwork as Itachi led 4 people in. The first was a tall woman with lustrous jet black hair and the face of a goddess. She had golden irises and vertically split pupils. 2 thick horns protruded from her head on her left and right temples. She was dressed in dark armor, with black sandals on her feet and a battle axe on her back. Then there were 3 people a little younger than Naruto, the first being a young man of average height with messy black hair, gold eyes, and a lean build. He wore a pitch black shirt with a high collar and long sleeves. The sleeves have brown leather that covers the wrists and upper arms. He wears light brown pants cut below his knees and, around his waist, a pair of brown belts that cross each other. Additionally, he wears a pair of dark-colored socks and a pair of boots. Then was a lean, muscular young man of average height with a slightly tanned skin tone, black eyes, spiky fire orange hair, and abnormally sharp canines. He was dressed in a sleeveless, gold-trimmed, black waistcoat, often left open and untucked, exposing his bare chest, a gold-trimmed, black cloth around his waist that reached his knees, held by a leather brown belt with an oval-shaped silver buckle, white knee-length trousers with black ribbon ties, a thick black wristband on his left wrist and black sandals. The last was a petite, young black cat girl with dark eyes. She has short black hair, black cat ears, and a black cattail. She wears a golden bangle on her left ear decorated with a single red pearl. She wore a long white dress with black gloves and brown boots, thigh-high tights, fingerless gloves, and a large sword on her back. Thank you all for coming here, Naruto said as he looked at the 4 of them. You 4 have been picked to be the first Genin team of Uzu, with Kengai as your sensei, he told them as the boys and girl looked amazed while the woman looked shocked. I'm the first Jonin sensei of Uzu, she asked. Naruto nodded, pulled out the headbands, and handed them to the 3. The young ones tied them around their heads while Kengai tied hers around one arm. Now for the first mission, and while it is not as big as it might seem, we can get more for Uzu at the moment, Naruto said. And the 4 nodded as Naruto handed Kengai a scroll. Head over to the land of forests. They sell fruit trees for purchase. Buy as many trees as you can, along with seeds of any kind for us to grow, he told them as they nodded before they headed out. Do you want me to send someone to gather another group? Itachi asked as Naruto looked off in thought. A puff of smile had them both turning to see Jiraiya, Tayuya, and Kankuro standing there. Sorry we're late, Jiraiya said as he looked at Naruto. And the good news? We have managed to gain some aid from the rebels to help overthrow Yagura. While I was talking to their leader, she said that there were a few old clans of Kiri that did not want to return when Yagura fell. the sage told his student, who nodded. How many? Itachi asked as Kankuro turned to with a smile. Naruto called in Shien, who he asked to have all the information written down. There are 5 clans. The first clan is a swordsman clan. They use a sword style that is passed down, and they use blue flames, he said as Shien wrote all this down. Then, the other 4 clans have a taijutsu that revolves around 4 essential elements: earth, fire, water, and wind, Kankuro said as Shino finished writing this down. I see, Naruto said as he looked at the village's construction. Itachi, how many of our forces do you think can take on the forces of Kiri? He asked the teen, who looked outside, with the other 3 looking outside with their eyes shooting wide. I'll have the names for you by the end of the night, Itachi said, and Naruto nodded before walking out. The demigod pondered before looking at Tayuya. How do you feel about leading a team? He asked her, and she looked at him in shock. Me, she asked him, and Naruto nodded. I feel okay with it, but why? Tayuya asked him. Until the others return, we cannot move to aid the rebels, so we are not at full strength, so while the others are on their way back with people, I do not want them to return to just bones, Naruto said as the others nodded. So, while we are waiting, I'm going to send you, along with 3 genin to Inoutama Island that is only a few hours away with Avuzu's boats, and use this money to buy some livestock for the village, Naruto said as he looked over some paperwork before he called in Shien. Yes, she said as she walked in. Can you gather 3 genin for me, please? Naruto asked her as she nodded and walked out once more. He then handed a scroll to Tayuya. After 5 minutes, she returned and brought 3 more young teens. The first was a beautiful and charming spectacled young woman with long cream yellow hair tied into 2 braids in the back with orange eyes. She wore a karate gi with a black sash and dark blue sandals around her waist. Then, there was a short, skinny boy in his late teens. He has fair skin and floppy, dark purple hair that is longer than average, with a long fringe and several strands that reach just past his shoulders. His eyes are violet. He usually wears a casual, white, short-sleeved top with light purple sleeves, black trousers rolled up at the bottom, and a pair of blue sandals with raven wings on his back. The last one also had wings coming out of his back, but his were bat-like and had short horns pointing back. He had short spiked white hair as was of short stare and was dressed in just a pair of black Hakuma pants with black sandals showing off his arms and how they were covered in scales from his back going down his arm to the back of his hands. Hello, you 3, Naruto said as the 3 stood up, striped and looked at him. Hello, sir, the boy with bat-like wings said to Naruto. Now, the 3 of you are being assigned as a team under Tayuya, Naruto said as he indicated to the genjutsu user, who looked at her students and then at her. And you have a mission to head over to Inoutama Island to gather livestock for the village, he told them as they nodded at him, with Tayuya walking up next to them. Understood, Uzukage-sama, Tayuya said with a nod before she led her students out, and Jiraiya looked at him. Where did they all come from, he asked the blonde. While Izumi and Kisame were on their mission, they came across Otto Ninja within the land of hot water, and for the last 2 days I have been aiding the new clans that have been created by that madman, Naruto said as Kankuro and Jiraiya looked at each other before the puppet master looked back at the Uzumaki. What do you mean, he asked, but when he read something Naruto had handed him, he could not help but have his jaw drop. Jiraiya looked over at the paperwork before he narrowed his eyes. Orochimaru, what have you done? He asked as he looked at the information. Naruto nodded as he looked at another sheet of information that Itachi and Izumi had gathered for him. Another thing is that Orochimaru has been cloning people from other clans, fusing animals with people, and even making other types of Kekkei Genkei without making a clan, Naruto said as Jiraiya looked over at him in shock. What clans? He asked as he looked at Naruto, who pulled out 3 sheets of paper. One is a clone of someone from the Yuki clan. They used the body of someone who helped me form a Nindo. Another from the Amikaze clan. They used DNA from someone that I knew when I was younger, and the last was from the Tenro clan, Naruto said as he handed this information over to the sage who nodded. Jiraiya looked at the paperwork before he shook his head. So what is going to happen? He asked. With what, Yagura? We are going to wait for Gaara and the others to return so that we have everyone that we think is ready to fight Kiri or Orochimaru, and at the moment, nothing as we do not know where his bases are. And I for one would like them gone if he is making madness, Naruto said with a shake of his head as Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. Then I'll get the information on where his basers are, he said as Naruto nodded. Stay in the village and have the information sent to us, he said. Jiraiya nodded as he left the room, and Naruto turned to the puppet user. So what do you need me to do? He asked Naruto, who had picked up something that the Tayuya had put on his desk. After giving this a quick read, Kankuro, I can say that you did well on your mission, and with me saying that I can happily say that you are now a Chunin of Uzu, Naruto said as he handed the teen a headband. Thank you, sir, he said with a bow as Naruto smiled. No problem. I was thinking, how do you feel about training some people in the art of puppetry? He asked, and Kankuro nodded, ecstatic. I would love to, he said as Naruto shuffled through papers before he pulled something out and handed it to the teen. Head over there and make a design of what you would like the workshop to look like for Tazuna and the other works to make it for you, Naruto said, as Kankuro nodded and walked out with a smile. 4 days later, 4 days after the team from Kiri had returned, Itachi gave Naruto the names of the people at least Chunin level. Kengai's team, which was dubbed Team 1, had returned with trees for apples, cherries, peaches, plums, pears, coconuts, lemons, mangoes, oranges, olives, and yuzu. The seeds they had bought were for many different plants, fruits, and vegetables that Uzu could grow. They were all given to the farmers who got to work planting them right away, and Naruto paid them around a C-rank's mission's worth. Just after them was Tayuya's team, Team 2, who bought a small herd of cattle, a small flock of sheep, 2 coops of chickens, 3 bees, a large group of pigs, and a selection of other animals they could use. Like the plants, they were given to the Hinotama clan members, who ensured that the animals were looked after and that the team was paid a C-rank's mission's worth. The 2 other teams had returned on a boat around the same day. As they looked around and walked into the central part of the village, they found the Uzukage building. It was a single structure with an elaborate tower with triple eaves and 3 distinct wings joining it. The building had a wall encircling it with the gates open. As they walked up, in the middle of the building was the kanji for whirlpool, whoa, and they could still see workers building the roof. They looked around and saw that the 2 smaller wings stood on either side of the main entrance to the palace building. Towers were also at the ends of these wings. They saw that the 3rd wing was directly opposite the main entrance hall. They walked into the building and up the stairs and found Shion behind a desk. Now wearing a purple suit with a lime green shirt underneath, she said, "Hello, are you the teams that were sent to the land of bean jam and tataki?" She smiled, and the others nodded as she pressed a buzzer on her desk. Yes, Shion, Naruto's voice asked. The teams you sent out are back, she said as Naruto hummed. I see, send them in, he said as she opened the door. They all walked in, and the ones who were with him to start with looked shocked. His clothes had significantly changed, as he now wore a black shirt with a dark gray flak jacket that had extra shoulder padding, neck padding, mesh armor around the collarbone, 3 scroll pouches on the chest, and was fastened by metal clasps on the right side alongside a black sash around the waist. He also had silver camo pants with black sandals and a long black cloth headband. But the major change was an orange, short-sleeved cloak whose tail came down to his upper calves, with black flames around the hem. Naruto's dual-color Rinnegan looked at them. Well done on your mission, and welcome to the newcomers, Naruto said with a bowed head. The members of the Tsuchi clan, along with Fu and Amaru, bowed to him in welcome. And while I would like to say that you all have time to rest, Uzu has been asked to join the Kiri rebels in overthrowing Yagura, Naruto said to the newcomers who looked at him. And if you do not want to participate, I will not force you, he said as Umichi walked up. That will be unnecessary. Kiri ninja under Yagura was sent to kill my clan's men, so we would like to return the favor to him, she said as others of her clan nodded. I see, Naruto said as he narrowed his eyes before he looked out his window. He looked to his left as Itachi appeared, and he was also wearing new clothes. He wore a full black outfit with a hood, fingerless gloves, black boots, armor around his torso, the back of his hands, and the top. Around his neck was a demonic mouthguard. What is the word from the others? Naruto asked as Itachi smiled at Izumi before looking at his leader. 2 of the boats are ready with supplies for the trip. Megumi said that she would act in your stead while we're taking down Yagura, the head of the Uchiha said as Naruto nodded. Good, tell everyone they have 3 hours before heading off, he said. Itachi nodded, attached a mask to the lower half of his mouth, and pulled up his hood, showing that the hood had a metal cap on the hood with the symbol of a grand lotus, making him look like a demon. He then stepped back into the shadows before blinking and disappearing into them. That was freaky, Kisame said before he smiled. So 3 hours? He asked Naruto, who nodded and showed Umichi a part of the map of Uzu where her clan could go. They moved out of his office. Before he could go, a puff of smoke formed in his office, and the Onmitsukido, who worked for Itachi, jumped into action and surrounded the summoned person. Like Itachi, they wore completely black outfits with their heads covered save for their eyes, demonic mouthpieces, and full glovers. And when the smoke cleared, it showed Anko Mitarashi. The two looked at each other before Anko smiled at Naruto. "Hey kid, I'm gonna join ya," she said as Naruto raised a brow before he smiled. "Alright, we're heading to a fight with Kiri along with their rebels," Naruto said as the Onmitsukido stepped back. "Really?" she asked as Naruto nodded. "Good, I'll help out," she said as she started to make her way out. "Naruto-sama, is that really a good idea?" a member of Onmitsukido asked Naruto, who nodded. "I do Fang," Naruto said as he walked out to join the others. Former Kiri ninjas walked around the camp with clans forced on the run. Their leader stood by the shore as she waited for the boats to arrive. "Are you sure that they are going to arrive?" a man with an eye patch asked as he stood beside Mei. "I am," Mei said, her voice carrying a note of relief as she spotted something moving in the water. Her tension eased as she saw the distinctive flags flying, a sign of their allies' arrival. It was a safety orange flag with a black spiral in the middle, symbolizing their trusted allies. As Mei smiled, more boats started to move closer, bearing the same flag. "Our allies are here," Mei called out as the boats reached the shore. The bows opened as the clans of Uzu, led by Naruto, walked down to the land. Mei and Naruto locked eyes and nodded at each other before Mei turned to her forces. "Get war table ready," she called out as she led Naruto, Jiraiya, and Itachi to the main tent. Everyone started to get ready. Once they reached the tent, the three found a large map of the Land of Water, which they used as a canvas for their strategic planning. "We've managed to locate small pockets where we can strike," Mei said, getting suitable for business as Naruto looked at the map. They discussed potential strategies, considering the enemy's strength and their resources. How many strongholds, armories, and other things that Yagura have under his control, Naruto asked as Mei looked to a ninja who walked over and put chess pieces on the map. "The pawns are small camps that we have found, but a Kiri ninja of great power runs each of them," the ninja said as she handed the copies to each ninja in charge. The chess pieces represented the location and strength of Yagura's forces. "This camp is run by Manayasu Mimo, otherwise known as the Rubicon, as his sword is stained red from the number of people he has killed with it," she told them. "She is skilled and able to use two elements, fire release and wind release," Mei said as the three nodded at her. "We need someone who can match her skill in the sword," the woman said as Naruto rubbed his chin before he looked at the sage. "Tell Hikuro to gather a group. He can go after the swordsman," Naruto said. Mei looked shocked as Jiraiya formed the seal of confrontation. "Why are you sending this, Hikuro?" Mei asked with a raised brow. "Hikuro is known as the Katana Oni," Naruto told her. Mei smiled as she turned to one of her ninjas, who nodded and went to gather some forces to join Hikuro, who was leaving. Everyone looked at the woman to continue as she pointed to the second pawn. "Rinasu Kuritsami runs this camp. She holds the legendary summoning contract to the dragons," the woman said as she looked around the pawn before nodding to himself. "I'll lead a group to that one," Naruto said as Mei's eyes shot wide. "Are you sure?" she asked him as he looked at her. "I'm the leader of Uzu. I'm going to need to fight as well, and while the rebels take out all of Yagura's footholds until there is nothing left," the Uzukage said as Mei looked Naruto in the eye once more before she nodded at him. "Alright, but I'm sending 5 ninja with you in your group," she told him, and Naruto nodded. They turned back to the kunoichi and then pointed at the next pawn. "Next is the Kuriteru Hano, Mayari," the ninja said as Jiraiya looked at the map. "I've heard of him. He's not an easy person to pass," the sage told them as Mei nodded. "I was thinking about sending people with strong water release to face him, but we are having trouble attacking the small pockets of Kiri ninja under Yagura," Mei said. Naruto nodded as he started to think. "Tell me how strong you would call his fire release," he asked the woman who looked at him. She and Mei looked at each other before they looked down at the map and then at Naruto, Well, not on the level of a member of the Sarutobi clan. But his control is good, Mei said as the blonde thought before he looked at Itachi, who nodded. Then why not send the swordsman there? He said as he looked at the woman, who looked shocked at him. But we only have 3 of them, Mei told them, but Naruto shook his head. 4, we brought Kisame with us, Naruto said as he looked at Mei. And to make sure that this works, here, he said as he handed over a scroll. Once it was opened, she saw a seal. What this? She asked the blonde. The Kabikura Bocho, and I am giving it to use against my better judgment, Naruto said as he narrowed his eyes at the woman who opened her mouth. The 7 swords were created by the Uzumaki clan, my clan, and when your village attacks they stole all 7, and while Kisame will have Samahata until his death. I am truly gifting the other swords to you on the trade for the Kiri Jinchuriki over to Uzu, he said as the women did not know what to say as they looked at each other. Mei looked at the scroll before looking back at Naruto. Yagura is a Jinchuriki, you know, she asked him. Not a real one, as the real one has to be near him in an unconscious state for him to use his power, Naruto told her. Mei looked back at the scroll before nodding. I accept the agreement, Mei said, her voice carrying the weight of her decision as she agreed to use powerful weapons against the enemy. Now then, what is the next camp? Naruto asked. The tension in the room faded. 5 hours later, Cloud Stronghold. Itachi led the Onmitsukido through the forest. They moved as quietly as the shadows, their feet making no sound. They moved from tree to tree before finding what they sought. The teen raised his hand as a group of Kiri ninjas walked out of the stronghold. He then curled his fingers as they drew their swords. As the Kiri ninjas turned their backs to them, Itachi made a fist as every member of the Onmitsukido moved in on their target. Rooster Armory. A member of Onmitsukido, leading 8 others, was heading towards a large armory. The members looked down as they looked at 2 people guarding a hole in a mountain. As the cloud's shadows covered them, the group moved forward and dispatched the 2 guards before they moved in. Camp Flame. Naruto and 5 of the rebel forces walked up to the camp. Each rebel looked at Naruto, who was ready to fight. The teen tossed a stone in his hand up and down before he caught it and tossed it into the camp. He then formed the tiger seal, and as the rock landed, a large explosion rang in the middle of the camp, and the group ran forward. The Kiri ninja ran out of their tents and looked around for the source of the explosion as the rebels charged as Naruto waited. So the rebels have gained allies, a woman's voice called out as Naruto turned to see a woman with wavy, semi-long crimson hair tied up in a ponytail, chest-length hair strands hanging on either side, emerald green eyes, and a pretty and youthful face dressed in a Kiri uniform with a sword at her side. Rinasu Kuritsami, Naruto asked the woman, who nodded. That I am, and can it get your name? Rinasu asked the blonde. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, he told her as the 2 locked eyes before they charged at each other with their swords clashing. Naruto's sword was coated in flames, while Rinasu's was in the water, with the 2 clashing each time, sending off steam into the air while the rebels and Kiri ninja fought around them. Naruto shot his finger forward as it pierced his opponent's arm before she kicked him back, and the 2 skidded away from each other. They then sent out 2 slashes of chakra. Naruto's turned into fire, while the other turned into water. They clashed and turned into steam, blown away as they moved into a sword lock again. Around them, the rebel and Kiri ninja continued fighting, with one of the rebels taking out a Kiri ninja and thinking of Naruto breaking the sword lock by kicking away. Rinasu turned around and threw 2 shuriken out that stuck the back of a Kiri ninja that was sneaking up on the rebel, who quickly turned around and used a kunai to cut the throat of the ninja behind them before the kunai started to steam as the ninja turned back around and then stabbed it into the chest of the ninja in front of them as the Kiri ninja screamed in agony as he could feel his blood boiling in his veins. Naruto and Rinasu locked swords once more before Rinasu smiled as she and Naruto locked blades once more. She locked Naruto's free hand with hers. Let me borrow this, she told him as she went through seals before she breathed in. Before breathing a small fireball, Kaden, Zukaku, she called out as Naruto jumped away. He then slashed at the air. He sent out a small wind blade that cut the fireball in half. Rinasu looked shocked as Naruto landed in a crouch and looked at the woman with his Rinnegan active. Rinasu changed her look to a scowl as she rushed at Naruto with her sword at the ready to cut off his head, but Naruto seemed to be faster as he moved into her space before she could react as he raised his sword and cut the hand holding the sword off as she staggered back. You little fuck. Renasu cursed at Naruto as a Kiri ninja was kicked over to her. And she then smiled as she wiped her thumb on the bloody stump and used the hand of the Kiri ninja to form seals. And when she was done, she kicked the ninja away and slammed her hand down before she was engulfed with smoke. Naruto stood there waiting, looking at the smoke. As it began to clear, one of the dragon summonses looked at him, with Renasu standing on top of it. It was a large summon with red scales but no wings, horns, or a long tail. Kiba, kill this fool, Renasu ordered the dragon, who looked down at Naruto. When his scent filled Kiba's nose, the dragon moved its hand as another puff of smoke filled the area. But this one was larger. When the smoke cleared, it showed a giant, legged dragon with 2 mighty wings and platinum scales. Kiba, why have you called me? The new dragon asked. Bahamut Sams, I think that this boy is more fit to the dragon summoning clan than this girl, Kiba told the platinum-scaled dragon, who looked at Naruto. What the? She asked before she vanished from her side as she felt something pierce her chest and looked down to see Naruto's sword poking out her chest. She coughed up blood as Naruto pulled his sword out of her chest and kicked her off the dragon. He then jumped after her and charged his sword with chakra. Renasu looked up and saw him kick off the air and zoom into her as his purple eyes turned crimson with a slit for a pupil. What are you? She whispered, and the rebels looked as Naruto slashed as he reached her in the air. And with his sword striking true, he removed her head in one slash. The remaining Kiri ninjas looked at the lifeless body of their commander before they knelt. We surrender, they called out as the rebels looked at Naruto, who picked up the head of Renasu and sealed it. Tie them up, we'll get information out of them back at base camp, he told his men, who nodded and got to work. That was well fought, Bahamut said as Naruto looked at him. And it seemed that Kiba was right. You will be a good summoner for the dragon, he said as he summoned a smaller dragon with a long serpent-like body and moose antlers. The dragon looked at Bahamut before he lowered the scroll and unrolled it for Naruto, who bit his thumb and summoned a toad. Hey, Naruto, why have you called me? The toad asked as Naruto pointed at the dragons. The dragon would like me for a summoner, is that alright with ye toads? He asked. Oh yeah, with me coming clean about how dad treated you. The elder said that you can get another clan. And we can become a secondary clan with me and Tatsu being your summons, the toad said. Naruto nodded and signed the contract as the dragons looked on. We require a chakra stamp, Kiba said. Naruto nodded, sent chakra to one of his fingers, and pressed it into the scroll. Thank you, when all of this is over summon me and my fellow sage and we shall give you the test to see if you are worthy to summon the dragons, Bahamut said before he returned to the summoning realm along with Kiba. Naruto looked over to the rebels who had captured Kiri ninja. Let's head back, Naruto said as he and the others walked back and returned to base camp. The next day, rebel base camp, war tent. Naruto and Mei looked over the war table as if they had taken 5 camps the night before. Naruto took out Camp Flame, and his group, a rebel named Anaguma, took Camp Iron. Camp Shadow was taken down by a member of the Kijin clan named Benimaru on his own. Hakuro had dealt with Manayasu Mimo, and the forces with him took out Camp Earth, and the swordsmen of the Mist, along with Mayari, took out Camp Water. But that was not all that fell as Mei and a group took out Sun's stronghold, and Itachi took out Cloud's stronghold. Suzaku prison had fallen because Jiraiya handled it personally. And then, thanks to Punishment Force, Team Alpha taking out Rooster Armory dealt another blow to Kiri. We're going to be hitting that prison next, is on an island in the middle of the water, Mei said as Naruto nodded. 2 days later, Kiri, Uzukage building, war room. The Uzukage stood in front of a large war table as a member of his council removed another of their modules from the map. He was a young-looking adult, though relatively short for his age. He had short, messy, gray hair, which fell over the right side of his face and spiked up on the left. He also had pupilless pink eyes and what seemed to be a stitch-like scar running from under his left eye down his cheek. His attire included a gray, sleeveless shirt with the Kiri headband attached to the front and short-sleeved mesh armor, which he wore a green poncho. He also wore a turquoise sash around his waist, paired with a matching green apron over his pants and a pair of brown boots. I'm sorry, Uzukage-sama. We've just lost Pig Armory, the man said as the Uzukage growled at him. That leaves us with 6 armories, 4 barracks, 5 strongholds, and 2 camps left, he said as the people in the office with him backed away from him. A runner then burst into the room. Camp Ice and Camp Forest have fallen, and from what we have learned it is a new village with the symbol of a spiral. She called out as a man slowly reached out and removed the models showing both camps. But more runners can enter the room as more places under the Uzukage fell. And by nightfall, there was only one thing left that he controlled. Kiri itself. The man sat in his office on his chair, drumming his fingers on the arm. And his eye never left Kiri's main gate. The man did not blind or remove his eyes from that gate as his ninja was moving around to find spots where they could defend. It seems that you will lose, a woman's voice in the man's head rang through. Silence, you know nothing girl, and I will be the one that wins this war, the Uzukage said as he growled at the voice. No, you won't, the voice told him before they went quiet, leaving the Uzukage to his thoughts. Land of Fire, Konoha, Yakiniku-kyu. The remaining members of Konoha's 4 rookie teams gathered around a grill, as each team had a booth. So, how is training with Suwande-sama? Lee asked as Sakura put some meat on the grill. It's going well. Suwande-sensei said that I have a good affinity with medical ninjutsu, so much so that Kakashi should have given me training for it, she said as she felt eyes on her before she looked up and saw that Shikamaru was drilling his eyes into her. Yes, Sakura asked him. The heir of the Nara clan said nothing for a while before he said one thing that shocked everyone. You're planning to leave Konoha. Sakura looked at him before she smiled. I am. She told him she moved the meat off the grill. I've been doing what I can to train Konohamaru, Udan, and Moegi in Naruto's stead, but they do not react with me like they did with him, so I plan to leave once my training in medical ninjutsu is good enough to help him, Sakura said as everyone looked shocked at her. Why? Ino asked as she looked at her best friend. Sakura popped the meat in her mouth, knowing Hinata knew the answer. She loves Naruto, she said as everyone stopped and looked at her. Am I right? Hinata asked as Sakura nodded. That's right, Sakura said as she put more food on the grill. And thanks to talking with Gamakichi, Naruto's toad familiar, he told me where he is, and then thanks to Tsunade-sensei, I have gained a way of getting over there when the time is right, she told them as they looked at her, and Kiba looked at her before his eyes shot wide. You're not wearing your headband, he said as Sakura nodded at him. I stopped wearing it ever since I realized my feelings for him, she said as the waiter walked in with more food. Here is the meat you ordered, and it's already been paid for, they said as the genin looked at each other before the waiter pointed to a man waving at them. That gentleman has paid for all your food for the time that you're here, the waiter said as he walked away, and the man walked over. The man looked around his mid-20s, with sandy blonde hair and tanned skin. He wore tattered jeans, a black t-shirt and ninja sandals. Hey there, kids, the man said as he walked over to them, all on guard. Except Ino, who was taken by the man's looks. Who are you? Choji asked as he got ready to grow. I could not help but overhear you talk about my nephew, the man said as Sakura looked confused. Naruto, she asked as the man clicked and pointed at her. That's him. Sadly, his mother and I could not raise him because of some laws that are not bendable, the man said with a shrug before he smiled, showing off his sun-yellow eyes. And I have some gifts for you, girlie, he said as he pulled a letter from his pocket and handed it to Sakura. He then gave her a bag of marbles. And the final thing was a scroll. Sakura looked at the things given to her before she looked at the man, who smiled. Go ahead and ask, he said as her eyes widened. How? She asked him. Summon one of your summons, and they can tell you, he told her as Sakura looked at him. She bit into her thumb, went through the seals, and pressed her hand on the table as a small puff of smoke formed. When the smoke cleared, a small tiger was sitting next to her. How can I help you, Sakura? The tiger asked as Sakura pointed at the man. The tiger then bowed to the man. Apollo-sama, why are you here? She said to him. Rise your head, Apollo said as he sat down with the others, making room for him. Hikaze, who is he? Sakura asked her tiger. He's Apollo, god of the sun, Hikaze told Sakura, who looked shocked at the man. The man smiled at them again, and the genin looked more amazed. Now before you start bowing to me, don't, Apollo said to them as they nodded at him. And to answer your question, Lee, Naruto is my twin sister's son, he told them as Lee looked shocked. So Naruto is half god? Neji asked as Apollo nodded at the boy. That he is Neji, and no Shino, there is a reason we tell our demigod children to not say they are children of gods, Apollo said as Tenten narrowed her eyes. Why? She asked him. Apollo pointed to both Kiba and Shino. These two are the reason, as Kiba is the descent of a demigod of Sarama, while Shino is a descent of Kepri. He told them before he looked back at Sakura. The gifts that I have given you is first ticks that do not expire but have one use only on my sun chariot to head to my nephew. It hold as many tickets you will need to use to take as many people that want to leave Konoha as well. Apollo told her as Sakura looked shocked. Then you have the marbles, they are to be used by Naruto. They are things that he is needing to build his new home. Apollo told her, and when he pointed to the scroll, and that scroll holds some new cloths for you, as I think my nephew will love them on you, and possibly taking them off you. The god said as Sakura's face turned red as the man got up out of his seat and started to walk away before he stopped and turned to Sakura. Love is not one of my dominions, but I know it when I see it. A letter to him allowing you to tell him everything, he told her before he walked out and disappeared into the crowd outside. Everyone turned back to Sakura, who was still blushing crimson as Shikamaru started to think up ideas. Sakura, I need you to be honest with me, he said as she looked at him. Is he building a village? Shikamaru asked. The blush vanished as Sakura's eyes hardened. Yes, she said as the tiger beside her showed her teeth. Shikamaru smiled. That's good. Then I can make a plan for the rest of us who want to join him, he said, and everyone looked shocked. What do you mean, Shika? Ino asked him. Shikamaru looked over to her, even before Sakura said anything. I was planning to leave Konoha as this is bullshit the way they treated Naruto, and allowed Sasuke to be praised as a good ninja of Konoha. So I say fuck them, he said as the others on the mission that went to retrieve Sasuke nodded. Hinata looked at Neji, who nodded at her. Me and Neji have been told that we must marry, and we intend to do so, but I was searching for the key to the seal on Neji's head to remove it. Hinata told them as they all nodded at her. We are even planning to release the Brach family and leave Konoha, Neji told them as the others nodded. Ino looked at them before asking, are you sure this is a good idea? She asked them. Sakura looked her in the eye as she gave some meat to Hikaze, who returned to the summoning realm. Yes, Naruto always stood by us, and now it's time we do the same, Sakura said as she got up and left. The next day, Land of Water, main island, outside Kiri. Naruto and Mei stood beside each other as they looked at Kiri's main gate. Are you okay with me destroying it? He asked, and Mei nodded. It can always be rebuilt, she told him. Naruto held up a hand, and the forces behind them all got ready to fight. Shinra Tensei, Naruto called out as a force, but it was out of his hand and shot forward, destroying the main gate as it burst inwards from nothing. The united Uzu ninja and rebels burst forward as they passed Mei and Naruto, moving quickly into the village like a wave crashing into the shore. The two leaders then moved side by side, heading towards the Uzukage building and jumping over buildings and people. Anyone who stood in their way was cut down by the combined force or by the two of them. Mei started spewing lava from her mouth, which made a bridge across a river. The two stood on it before continuing their movement ahead. Naruto looked up at the top of the Uzukage building and saw someone standing there before he appeared in the air the building and summoned Mei with him as the two landed on the building. They looked at the Uzukage as the man turned to look at them. So you two finally get here, he said as he turned to them. Naruto kept one hand on his sword while the other got ready to form a seal while Mei drew a kunai. I did not think you would get this far, Mei, but who did? After all, your forces were small and dwindling, the Uzukage said as he turned to Naruto. Then you stepped in with your forces, he growled at Naruto, who rolled his eyes. Within the blink of an eye, Naruto and Mei shot at the man who pulled out his staff, which blocked the sword and kunai. Naruto's hand shot forward and around the arm of the Uzukage before he called out, Raiden, Waru Suppaku. He sent electricity into the man, shocking him. Mei finished going through seals as she got ready and then sprayed out acid from her mouth that hit the Uzukage's staff and started to melt it. You two filthy inskits, the Uzukage growled at the two as he formed a tail of his Bijuu and batted them away before jumping after the two. Underground holding area. Itachi, along with a small team of Onmitsukido, moved quickly, killing everyone in the room except a young girl of average height. She had straight brown hair cut in a chin-length bob that framed her face and looked around the same age as Naruto. She also had a rectangular purple marking on either side of her cheeks, and all she was dressed in was a hospital gown. She lay on the stone platform with a large seal over the room. Everyone but the girl has been taken out, a member of Onmitsukido told Itachi, who nodded. Good, he said as he pulled out a piece of paper and looked at it before he pointed at a section on the wall. That part needs taking out, Itachi ordered as one of them walked over and held up his hand. Their fingers turned to cat-like claws, and they cut the wall. When the wall was cut, the girl woke up with a deep breath as she looked around at the Onmitsukido. Thank you, she said with a smile. Think nothing of it, one said, and Itachi gave her some clothes. We are the Onmitsukido under orders of Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki the Shadima Uzukage to free you and help you, and to inform you that Konoha is no longer what it was, Itachi said as the girl looked at him. What do you mean, she asked him. Main Street of Kiri. Anko fought back-to-back with a member of the Seven Swordsmen, the only female member. She had long, red hair and black eyes, and with a Kiri forehead protector, she also wore a simple cloth around her head, distinctively tied at both sides so that the ends of the material protruded upwards. In contrast, the remainder of her hair was allowed to flow downwards. She wore a loose, pin-striped long-sleeved shirt with a dark obi around the waist, black pants which got much looser near the ends, resembling hakama, and striped leg warmers. Like all the other members of her generation of swordsmen, she wore bandages loosely tied around the neck and had jagged teeth. The two took out Kiri ninja, who swarmed them with Kimimaro above them to fight a swordsman. In another part of the story, Kiri had Kisame fighting a man with a giant axe and hammer. The members of the Kijin clan moved into 3 units. They took out parts of Kiri, led by Shion, Abaki's son, and a member dressed in white. It was flying above with the 2 Uzu clans with wings zooming around in the air, quickly taking out any Kiri ninja with ranged weapons. A large explosion on top of the Uzukage building briefly caught people's eyes before they continued fighting. On top of the Uzukage building, the 3 fightings looked worse for wear, with the Uzukage scowling at the 2 as he had lost his Jinchuriki abilities, with Naruto and Mei having their clothes torn from the fighting. Even without the Sanbi, I am still the Uzukage, the man yelled as he spewed water in the shape of a dragon. Naruto went through seals before he ended with the bird seal. The roof headed up as a serpentine dragon of lava formed out. Yotan. Yogan Ryu no Akari, he called out as both dragons met in the air. Steam burst out as the 2 collided. Mei formed the water release seal as a water blade burst from the ground. As the water dragon stopped, the Uzukage had to jump out of the way and stop his jutsu. The lava dragon went after him and trapped him in a wall before Naruto hardened the lava and stopped the jutsu. Stop this war now before we are forced to end your life, Mei told him as the trapped man looked at her with eyes full of hate. Never, the man said, clapping his hands together as water started to form around the 3 of them. If I can't kill you, then I'll take you 2 out with me, the Uzukage yelled before he blinked and saw that Naruto was now in the air with his leg back. Do yourself a favor and shut the fuck up, he told the man before he kicked at the air. It sent out a blade of wind that cut into the man. He dropped his technique as the water started to fall to the ground. Sweden. Swedana, Mei called out as the falling water moved up and cut into the man. The rebel leader sat the blood flowing out of the man, so she looked at him with a sad look. Yagura, I ask you once more to stand down, she asked him, but the man just looked at her. I would rather die, Yagura told her before he felt an unbelievable amount of chakra above him. He looked up to see Naruto with his sword over his head and the blade glowing golden orange. So be it, Getsuga Tensho. Naruto called out as he slashed at the air and set out a wave of chakra that hit the man and continued moving through the mountain he was trapped in. The fighting stopped as they looked up and sat at the mountain behind the Uzukage building, falling and turning into chunks of rock as they fell to the floor. The war stopped as everyone looked to the top of the Uzukage building, waiting to see who had won the fight between the leaders. When Naruto and Mei reached the top lip, the Kiri ninjas fell to their knees, and the rebels and Uzu ninjas celebrated. This war is over. We have won, Mie called out as people started to round up the ninja who had joined the former Uzukage. The next day, Naruto was talking with Itachi and Abaki's son. Itachi, I make sure that everyone is ready for departure. Benimaru, ensure the wounded get on the boats first so our medics can deal with them. He ordered the 2 as the girl that Itachi freed approached him. She was now dressed in silver camo pants and a bodysuit that was back and armless. Are you the Uzukage? She asked as Naruto turned to her. I am, he said as she dropped to her knee. I'm Rin Nohara, Uzukage-sama. I was your father's student when he was alive. was, a chunin and a medical nin, she told him as Naruto nodded at her. I am also the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, and I offer my service to Uzu. Rin told him as Naruto nodded at her with a smile. Then Rin, you can help the wounded on the boat. Go over with Benimaru, and he can lead you to where you need to go, he told her. Rin nodded and walked off as Shion walked over wearing the same clothes as Rin, but she showed off her bust more and had a small crop jacket. Naruto raised a brow at her, and she smiled cutely at him. He pointed at Rin. I take it that was your doing, he said. Shion smiled before walking away, and Naruto shook his head with a smile as two more people walked over. The first was a tall, thin young man with pale golden eyes and brown hair that reached to his shoulders. His side parting let a large portion of his bangs cover the left side of his face. He wore a long, light blue kimono with a small emblem of 3 bubbles on the back and gray pants underneath with an orange sash. The kimono hung loose, exposing his chest. In it, he carried a bamboo jug. Next to him was a girl with fair skin, dark green eyes, and long, wavy blonde hair with a widow's peak reaching her back. She wore a violet-colored kimono top with white trimmings tied by a black obi, black shorts with a shuriken holster underneath a slit black skirt with red trimmings, violet arm warmers and black shinobi boots. Hey, I heard that you trained me for the last of the 7 swords not in use, and I will allow Kiri to have them, the man said as Naruto looked at him. So you're the Rokubi Jinchuriki, Naruto said as the man nodded at him, and Naruto smiled gently at him. I'm holding the old fox, the blonde said as the man's eyes seemed to lose focus for a little while before he smiled. My name is Yu Takata, and this is my student Hotaru. I was a jonin of Kiri, he told Naruto, who nodded. There are some boats down their way. Look for a man with fire orange hair and tell him that you have joined us. That is one of the boats that will return to Uzu, he told Yu Takata as the two nodded and walked down to the boat. The next to walk up to him was 5 people. The first was a man dressed in a dark purple kimono with a sword. He was bald and had striking purple eyes. The next was a woman dressed in an orange hanging with yellow high-collar clothing underneath it. She was also bald but had sky-blue eyes. At her side was a staff. The next was a man with green eyes. He wore a long yellow tunic over gray pants, accompanied by a hat, shawl, and lower leg protection in solid green, along with gauntlets to provide lower arm protection, and the tunic was secured with a belt. Then, there was a woman with long white hair and deep blue eyes. She wore a light purple dress covered by a kimono-like tunic in a darker shade of purple. Her attire had no split sides, and her tunic was lined with white trim. The last was another woman with dark eyes and long black hair that he had tied up in a top knot. He wore a red ornate robe with spiked shoulders. Are you the clan heads who said you wanted your clans to join Uzu? Naruto asked the 5 as the man with the sword walked up. I am Mosuke Aohaiken. I am from the Aohaiken clan. We are sword users who used our Kekkei Genkei of Aokatan, Mosuke said as he bowed to Naruto, who bowed back. The bald woman walked up next. My name is Arabi. My clan is called the Manamikaze clan, and we use our clan's fighting style called Kamikazekin, Arabi said as she bowed to Naruto, who bowed back at her before he looked as the white-haired woman walked up. I am Rinari Nishimizu, the leader of the Nishimizu clan, Rinari said as Naruto bowed his head to her. My clan has the taijutsu called Sisuken, along with healing water release ninjutsu, she told Naruto, who nodded at her. He then looked at the man in the green as he walked up. My name is Yuzo Kitayama. I lead the Kitayama. Our fighting style is called Kamiyamakin, he told Naruto with a nod, as the blonde demigod nodded back at him. The last woman walked over to him. Good morning, Naruto-sama. My name is Seizu. I am the leader of the Azumahi clan, and our clan's fighting style is Saikaken, she told him before giving him a bow. Naruto bowed to her before he looked at the 5. Thank you for joining Uzu. If you can head to the boat with the man with bird-like wings, you can all settle in for our travel to Uzu. And Rinari, can you send the healers of your clan to the boat with the man with red hair and black horns to help with the wounded? Naruto told her, and the woman nodded as a large group walked over to the boats. Naruto made sure to stand by the docks as each of his ninjas walked back to the boats, carrying the injured, and he was lucky no one had died on this mission. After the last person was on the boats, Naruto got ready to leave, but a group of women approached him and fell to one knee in front of him. "Son of Artemis, allow us daughters of war gods to join you," their leader said as Naruto looked at them. They were all dressed in adorned metal headdresses and heavily armored green kimonos and wore face paint. Naruto looked at her. "Who are you?" he asked them. "Artemis-sama asked us to join her, but we turned her away because we did not wish to fall in love. She then asked us to serve her son, who was the daimyo of the land of whirlpools and also the leader of the village that is known there," the leader said as Naruto looked at her before he nodded. "Do you have your things?" he asked them, and they nodded. So they all stood up and followed him as he turned around and approached the lead boat. "Uzukage," Mei called out as Naruto stopped. The female warriors reached for their weapons. "As the new Uzukage, I offer you my hand in marriage once both our villages have been fixed up as a diplomatic marriage so that the bad blood that Kiri had done to your clan can start to be washed away," she called out as Naruto locked eyes with her before he nodded and headed to the boat. The bows of the boats lifted before they started to make their way back to Uzu. 5 hours later, Land of Fire, Konoha, council room. The clans of Konoha were meeting to discuss how things were going, with them slowly getting back into the good books of the daimyo, before an Anbu appeared next to Tsunade with a scroll. "News from Kiri," the Anbu said as Tsunade unrolled the scroll and read it before her eyes shot wide. "Yagura has fallen," she called out as the council members looked shocked. "How?" Inoichi asked her why her eyes shot wider when she saw the reason. It was Naruto. He had built his own village, and from the looks of it, he had gained quite the number of clans for his village, Tsunade said, as everyone was shocked. "It is true," the Anbu said as everyone turned to them. "I was on patrol over in the Land of Water when I saw Naruto Uzumaki lead his ninja, along with the former rebels of Kiri, to victory, so I stayed and observed them," they said, as everyone did not know what to say. "Who dealt the final bow to Yagura?" Shikaku asked them. "It was Naruto with a jutsu that leveled the great mountain of Kiri," the Anbu said as everyone took everything in. Tsunade looked to the Anbu. "Do you know what their village is called?" she asked them. "I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama. I do not, as Jiraiya found me, thinking I was after Uzumaki's head, so I fled," they said as Tsunade held up a hand. "No, it's all right. Well then, go rest," she ordered as the Anbu nodded and left. But another one also left and headed to the forest, where it ran into a hidden base where the former Konoha elders were hidden. "I bring news," they said as the three turned to the Anbu. "Speak," Danzo told them. "Uzumaki has created a village and has killed the Uzukage, Yagura," the Anbu said as the elders narrowed their eyes. The information had just reached the Hokage. They do not know the village's location, but from what was said, they have several clans within that village, the Anbu told them. The former elders thought as they looked at each other before they smiled. The next day, waters around Land of Whirlpools. On the return from the Land of Water, the boats were greeted by something shocking. It was part of the wall built around the village, which looked like it led into the harbor. The entrance to the harbor is sealed by a massive seawall flanked by 2 large towers. They passed the tower as people rushed forward to greet the returning people. Naruto's boat got there first before all the boats were lined up next to it, and the bows lowered for them to walk down to the gettings of everyone. Naruto walked up to Tazuna, who met him. "Welcome back, and the village is almost done. There are some small bits that need fixing or putting up, but other than that, everything is done," he told him as he started to lead Naruto away as people met with families. Tazuna led Naruto and the female warriors, who followed behind them until they reached a wall with the Uzumaki clan symbol going along it. Behind that, Naruto could see a large building. It was a large castle that looked to be fused with a tiered pyramid, with the Uzumaki clan spiral on top of it. They walked in and saw that leading up to the entrance was a large staircase bordered on either side by fox statues. A pool of water and several artificially designed waterfalls surround the building, and the liquid for these is supplied by various pipelines pouring water into the pool from directly below the building. The courtyard was a beautiful garden with a large pond with trees scattered around the open area. "So what do you think?" Tazuna asked Naruto, who looked at the man. "It's amazing," he said as Tazuna smiled. Naruto turned to the girls. "Get settled in. I'm heading to my office to talk with the heads of the clans so that I can give out missions," Naruto told them as they bowed to him before they walked into the castle to guard it. Naruto headed over to the Uzukage building, smiling at people walking past him and the children running up to him. He would listen to what they told them and go along before they rejoined their mothers as the women bowed their heads to him, and he bowed his head to them before continuing on his way. He walked past the market as trainers and fishermen started to sell their goods. They smiled at Naruto, who smiled back before he approached his building. He walked in and up the stairs and found Shion sitting at her desk in her secretary attire, the purple suit and lime green button-up shirt. She smiled at Naruto as Naruto nodded and walked into his office. He felt the Onmitsukido in position, waiting and standing guard of their cage. He then sat behind his desk, turned to look at his village, and smiled before he heard the speaker go off. "Naruto-sama, Team 1 is here for a mission," Shion told him as he turned around. "Send them in," he told her as the door opened, and Kengai and her team walked in. "Alright, then, let's see what I got," Naruto said as he shifted through paperwork on his desk before he found something. "It's a D-rank mission. It seems that the workers of Wave down by the harbor need some ninjas to help with the wall," Naruto said as he handed the scroll over to Kengai, who took it. "This is the perfect time to teach them the tree walking along with the water walking," he told her as she nodded at him, and the four walked out. Tayuya's team walked in next, and she now sported a scar across her left arm. "We're ready for our mission," she told Naruto, who smiled at her with a raised brow. "Are you healthy Enid to do a mission?" he asked her as she nodded at him. "You bet your ass," Tayuya said as her students nodded. "Alright then, some workers are paying us to guard them returning to Wave for some supplies. That means that this is a C-rank mission, and for some extra pay, make sure you can spread the word that Uzu is now active," Naruto told her as she nodded at him as he handed the scroll before she went to meet with the person. After she left, Utakata walked in with Hotaru, both sporting Uzu headbands. They smiled at him, so Naruto pressed the buzzer. "Shion, can you send 2 genin for the new team?" Naruto told his secretary. "New team?" Utakata asked as he looked at Naruto. "I'm Makigyu the Jonin sensei of Team 3, and so for the only member is Hotaru," Naruto said as Utakata nodded while Hotaru smiled. "Thank you Uzukage-sama," she told him. After 10 minutes, 2 genin walked in and walked up to Naruto. They both were boys with black hair. One had blood-red eyes while the other had dark blue eyes. "Right then, you two are going to be joining Team 6, Naruto said before Utakata cut him off. He smiled at Naruto, who nodded. "Team 6, and your first mission," he told them as they listened to him. Han and Gaara stood across from Naruto, discussing their recent meeting with Amaru. Deep in thought, they shared the details of their conversation, and Naruto responded, "I'll speak with Kurama about it, and if what I'm thinking is right, then I can do something, but I need to make sure." They nodded and left the building. "Well," Naruto asked the fox within him. "It is possible, but you will need to summon the Gedo Mazo and remove the last of its tails," Kurama told Naruto. He continued, explaining the origin of the Gedo Mazo and its connection to the Jubi. "When my father created me and my siblings, he sealed the Jubi within himself, and pulled out 9 of its tails, while its body became the Gedo Mazo with 1 remaining tail," he told Naruto. "I see. Do you have a way to do that?" Naruto asked, the beast sealed within him. "Yes, but I will be tricky," Kurama told Naruto, who nodded. "Write Takbi through the steps," he told the fox as he pulled out a piece of paper and started writing the information down. Once he was done, a knock came on his door. "Come in," he called out as Izumi and Umichi walked in. "What can I do for you ladies?" Naruto asked them. "Is it possible for us to help the Uchiha clones?" Izuku asked him as Naruto looked confused. "Uchiha what now?" he asked her. "Land of Fire, Konoha." Sakura walked through the steps, met the other rookies, and heard whispers around her. "Did you hear what Uzumaki did? I heard he killed a cage. He destroyed the sacred mountain of Kiri." And she smiled as she walked past them all. "Cha, now this is what I'm talking about. He's stronger than that bitch Sasuke. Taking out a cage is the way to do it." Inner Sakura told her outer, who nodded her head as she met up with the others. After a few minutes, she met up with the others from her class and Team 9. "So, what have you called us here for Shikamaru?" Ino asked him as the Nara heir looked at her with a sigh before looking at the others. "I have no doubt that you have all heard the rumors that Naruto killed the Uzukage," Shikamaru said as the others nodded. "Well, from what I found out, it's true, he did," he told them, the shock on their faces reflecting the weight of his words. "How did he do it?" Kiba asked the Nara heir. I don't know, but it sounds like he used a chakra slash from his sword, Shikamaru said, then smiled. And I am ready to leave, he told them as they looked at him. Sakura looked at Shikamaru with a raised brow. Are you sure you want to do this? She asked as he turned to her. I'm one thing. My mother and father think of Naruto as a demon, and so I've been living in his old apartment, and the only ties that really matter here are you all, she told them. And with your training going on well, and you learning the Kage Bunshin to speed up your training twice as much, you'll be leaving next month, Ino said, referring to Sakura's intensive training and the advanced technique she was mastering. Sakura nodded, her determination evident in her eyes. Shikamaru was quiet for a while before he nodded. True, I have my mother and father. Both did not think ill of Naruto. Hell, my father was once advocating for Naruto to live in the Nara compound, he told them as they all nodded at him. But I can't help but think that Konoha is not where I belong anymore and that I am needed somewhere else, Shikamaru said, contemplation evident in his words, as Lee nodded. I feel the same way. Naruto is my rival, and with him not around, I feel like I am lost, he told them. Neji and Choji both said something similar to the other two. Me and Neji still plan to leave as Hanabi is now the heiress of the Hyuga clan. While we were planning to make sure that we left with some of the branch family, I have even found the key to the seal, Hinata said as she looked at Neji, who showed them that he did not have a seal on his head anymore. But Ino narrowed her eyes. Why are you lying? She asked as Tenten looked at her. What do you mean? She asked. Hinata is lying about something, and I do not know what it is, Ino said as the Hyuga sighed. None of the branch family want to leave, only me and Neji, Hinata said as Neji nodded. It's true, he told them as he held his headband. I spoke to them, and they said that they feared what would happen, so they refused. So it's only us two, Neji said. But when we join Naruto, we will not be Hyuga, we will start a new clan, Hinata said as she handed Sakura something. What's this? She asked as she looked it over. It's a recipe that I created after looking up the Sharingan's next stage, the Mangekyo Sharingan and Naruto's eyes, the Rinnegan, and I found a way to create it, but I first need my body to be in the right condition, Hinata said as Sakura nodded at her. The first I need to have something that will increase my chakra output, 10 times so much so that I should explode from it, but then I shall have to inject blood into my body. The blood and chakra will meet and fuse with my eyes. And then my Byakugan will change to a new set of eyes, she told the girl. I'll help do this, and with it going to be done at the hospital, me and Tsunade-sensei can make sure that you both don't die from this, Sakura said as she looked at the recipe before she nodded. Land of Whirlpools, Uzukage building, Uzukage's office. Naruto rubbed his temples as he reviewed all the information, and Izumi and Umichi told him, right then, just so I'm getting this right, Naruto said as he looked up at them. Both women winced at his twitching left eye. Orochimaru used the DNA of both Sasuke and another Uchiha to create clones to create a new Uchiha clan with an auto. But the clones that you found were the ones that were marked down as failures and were just there for organs for the clones that were successful. Naruto started as Izumi nodded at him. And a way for you to save the clones is if you get blood from women that can then fix their DNA, he finished as he looked to Umichi. That's correct, Naruto-sama, Umichi told Naruto, who nodded. I see. I'll talk to the others and see if we can do a blood drive, Naruto told them as they nodded. Go talk to Rin about setting up a room in the hospital so we can start this, he told them before remembering. What about the other clones? He asked them as both women sighed. That is harder to do, Umichi said as Naruto nodded. Alright, can you look into it and tell me what you need? He asked as both women walked out. I take it you got all of that? Naruto asked as he turned to see Jiraiya standing off to the side. I did, he told his student as he sat on a sofa. Orochimaru has skewed us over, Jiraiya said as Naruto nodded. That he has, but it's time to fix some mistakes that he made, Naruto said as he looked at the sage. Can you get the sealing chamber ready? I have a way to finish the promise that Gaara's group made to Amaru, he told the sage, who nodded and left the office. Naruto filled out some paperwork before he walked out of his office. Shien, I would like if you can spread the word to some of the women of the village and see if we can get some donors for the Uchiha clan, he told her. His secretary nodded and started to write something up. As he walked down the stairs, he passed his ninja, who nodded to him, and he nodded back at them. After he reached the bottom of the stairs, he walked into a large chamber. Tazuna really outdid himself, Naruto said as he looked around and stepped into the middle of the room. He then slammed his hand down as a large puff of smoke formed. Sitting in the middle was a giant, earthen-colored humanoid entity with a mummified appearance, a body shaped like a robe, and several spike-like protrusions on its back. The statue sat in a meditative state. It had 9 eyes, the closed size of an adult man. Shackles usually bound the statue's wrists and ankles. It bit down on a scroll held in place by 2 ropes extending from beneath its blindfold on either side of its head. "So where is the last tail Kurama?" Naruto asked as the fox directed his eyes to within the robes. "What seals do I need?" Naruto asked the beast. "First use Shirado to give yourself 4 extra arms," Kurama said as Naruto grew out 4 more arms, 2 on his left and 2 on the right. Right set from the ram seal, middle set clap hands, left set from the mirrored ram seal, Kurama told Naruto as the blonde did so slowly, and a long single tail started to go out of the statue robes. Left and right changed to tiger while the middle changed to snake, the fox told Naruto, who did so as the tail started to twist. 3 sets of ram, Kurama told Naruto as the tail was nearly loose. Then, a resounding tear filled the air as they landed on the ground with a loud bang. "Now, to use this in a Bijuu," Naruto said as he looked at it before he pulled out a scroll and sealed the tail within. The Uzukage then left the room and went to the sealing chamber. Amaru was lying in the room without a shirt and her seal on display. He looked at Jiraiya. "Is everything ready?" he asked the sage, who nodded. "Yeah, all ready," Jiraiya said as Naruto released the tail as it loomed over them. Naruto moved his hands into the starting seal. It was the tips of his ring, and his middle fingers touched with the knuckles of the pinky. His index fingers touched the thumbs there side by side. The tail started to glow green as a mass of dark chakra emerged from Amaru's seal. He then moved to the ram seal, and the bubbling chakra was pulled out of Amaru as it took form. It resembled a dark purple leech with a serpent-like body. On its face, it wears a blank white-colored no mask that has the kanji for 0 on it, which is tan in color, and 5 red hair-like strands sprouting from it, 4 at the top and 1 at the bottom. He then moved to the dog seal, and the tail turned into green chakra, swirling around the ribi and forming a cocoon of green chakra. Naruto then formed the monkey seal as the cocoon started to turn into a shake. From within, the chakra began to push outwards, creating a serpentine head with 2 curved back horns. Then, the blonde demigod formed the tiger seal as the tail started to be compressed, stretching the body outwards into a long body wrapped around the building. Naruto returned to the ram seal as the coon started to change into armored scales as a mouth formed with small spikes on its head. The blonde then quickly changed to the seal of confrontation as the snake's colors were a dark green for the skin and a deep purple for the scales. Naruto changed to the snake seal as the eyes opened and the snake looked around. "Your name is now Yoto. I have given you the ability of dark release along with your old abilities auto heal your hold as negative emotoion sensing, and now you are complete. Yoto no ribi, Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu," Naruto called out as he clapped his hands. Yoto looked at Naruto and nodded before being sealed back within Amaru again. Naruto sighed before nodding. "All right, then that is done," Naruto said as he shook his head and made his way back to his office. "Thank you, Naruto-sama," Amaru said as Naruto smiled at her. As he walked, he saw the kunoichi of Uzu make their way to the hospital. "Shien worked fast," Naruto muttered, smiling a little more as he entered his office. When he did, he found Tazuna waiting for him. "Hey, the village is built, with some room to grow, and some of Wave's builders wanted to stay, so let's do the math, shall we?" He told the blonde, who nodded, and the two started to work it out. "Alright, the original number would be 388 tillion, 152 quintillion, 61 quadrillion, 232 trillion, 681 billion, 585 million ryo," Tazuna said as Naruto nodded and started to write the check. Still, the older man held up a hand to stop the blonde. "I said the original number, but from you helping Wave and all that you've done for Wave when we've been building your village, the workers and I have decided to cut the amount back," Tazuna said. "Oh, if you want to," Naruto said, shocked, as Tazuna nodded at him. "Yes, first for what you have done for Wave. That means everything to us, so with that, we'll half the price," Tazuna told Naruto, who did some quick maths in his head, and for selling us the food, growing a new forest within Wave, and helping heal the people of Wave of illness. We have decided to half the price one more, the old man told Naruto once more. Are you sure? That's quite a bit of money that you're giving up, Naruto asked the man, who smiled. We are, and we were hoping that we could form a relationship with Uzu going forward, so we were coming up with a price that would benefit the two of us, Tazuna told Naruto, who nodded at him. So, and even if I think that the number is still too high, we'll give you a 50% discount, he said, and Naruto's jaw hit the floor. I'm going to have to stop you there, Naruto said as he held his hands up. That is going to be the final prince, the blonde said as he wrote the money down on a check. The leader of Wave took the check and bowed before he left Naruto, as he could feel that the Onmitsukido around him were feeling the same. Shien, call in the teams, Naruto called into his mic. Teams 1, 2 and 6 walked in, right, then as of now, with Uzu paying Wave for building our village, the 3 teams can be paid, Naruto said as he pulled out scrolls. First Team 1, you have completed 5 D-rank missions and 3 C-rank mission. Here is your pay, Naruto said as he handed the scrolls over and they bowed to him. Team 2, 2 D-rank missions and 4 C-rank missions, the blonde said as Tayuya came and collected the scrolls and handed them to her students. And Team 6, 2 D-rank missions and 2 C-rank missions, Naruto told the group as Utakata collected the scrolls. Now then, would any of you like any missions? Thanks to the work of Team 2 spreading the word, we have missions out of Uzu at the moment, a total of 6 C-rank missions, Naruto told them as the sensei looked at their students. Are there any D-rank missions, Uzukage-sama? I think that my team will need some more training, Kengai told Naruto, who looked and pulled out a scroll. A member of the Aohaiken clan has asked for you to walk his dogs, as he is training his daughter, Naruto told them as they nodded and headed out. Team 2 will take a C rank, Tayuya told Naruto, who handed over a scroll. Your mission is sensitive, Naruto told her as the team stood straight. You are to head to the land of snow and guard the daimyo as she wants to visit Uzu. She has not given a reason, and I do not wish only 4 of you going. So this will be a joint mission between teams 2 and 6, he told both Utakata and Tayuya. Ununderstood, both said as the genin nodded behind their sensei, and the 2 teams moved out. After they left, Naruto pressed his intercom. Shien, can you start sending in people who have passed to become sensei? The blonde asked. Alright, sir, we have 5 here at the moment, with. The first was a tall man with short blonde hair and a thick beard who wore silver camo pants, a short-sleeved shirt, and a flak jacket. His wings were red-scaled, and his arms had scarlet scales running down them. So Hyojin, you have been called here to be made the sensei of Team 3, Naruto told the man, who nodded at him. Your team is being called here, so if you can wait for them to arrive, he told him. Thank you, sir, Hyojin told Naruto as not soon after, 3 genin walked in. The first of the 3 was a young teenage girl of average height with black hair and brown eyes. Her hair was short and spiked out at the sides. On her head was a stubby black horn. She wore baggy black pants, a thick dark red coat, and armored sandals. The next was a short boy with short brown hair, dark brown eyes, dark blue pants, and a light blue parka with a white fur lining. The last was a tall boy with tied-back black hair and deep green eyes dressed in a dark green tunic and light green pants. Welcome, you 3, as of today, the 3 of you are now members of Team 3, Naruto told them. The young teens nodded as Naruto handed over a scroll to Hyojin. After Team 3 walked out, Seizu walked in, followed by 3 genin. The first was a bald girl with dark blue eyes dressed in dark brown robes and ninja sandals, carrying a large staff. The next was a small boy with spiky cream yellow hair and large dark orange eyes. He wore a light blue hoodie and black hakama pants. The last was a boy with dark brown hair and dark orange feathered wings on his back. He wore a light blue hooded jacket with buttons, black calf-length pants, and black sandals. Good morning, you're 4, Seizu. Are you going to be the sensei for these 3? Naruto asked the leader of the Azumaki clan. I am Naruto-sama, Shizu nodded as Naruto looked at her clothes. She had now changed into a pair of silver camo pants with knee-high black leather boots with golden lines that ran down the legs and around the knees with pointed toes. A gold shiitake and dark red kasode with a flak jacket covered her chest. Alright then, you're going to be, Naruto said before Roshi walked in with some old shinobi armor. Sorry I'm late. I was training a member of the Kitayama clan how to use lava release, he told Naruto, who nodded. Naruto looked at both of them as Shien sent in 3 more genin. The first was a girl with scarlet red eyes, and black hair pulled into a bun held in a tied cloth. She was black hakama and a dark gray sleeveless hooded jacket. Then, there was a young boy of average height with tanned skin and an athletic, muscular physique. He had ruffled black hair with red tips, combed back to expose his forehead, and wide, dark red eyes with white pupils that appeared lighter around the lower section of his irises. He wore a blue, cloud-patterned kimono and black pants. The last was a boy with dark blue hair and black cat ears on his head. Behind him, a black cat's tail swished. He wore a long-sleeved purple hoodie, dark blue pants, and sandals. Naruto looked at both of his jonin. Right, first, who would like to have the name of Team 4? Naruto asked the two as Shizu looked at Roshi. I shall let him take that honor, she told Naruto as the Yonbi Jinchuriki smiled. Alright then, Shizu. You are in charge of Team 5, and I am glad the two of you are on a joint mission to the Land of the Moon. The king and prince wish to come here, so I am sending both your teams to escort them here, Naruto told them as they nodded at the blonde and accepted the scroll before walking out. For the rest of the day, Naruto created teams and sent them out on missions. Late at night, Land of Fire, Konoha, Naruto's former apartment. Sakura prepared her supper, and once she moved it to the table, she felt the presence of someone behind her. So she quickly pulled out a kunai and spun around, only to find Kakashi there. Yo, he told her. She lowered the kunai as the man looked at her before he sighed, so you still don't trust me? He asked Sakura, who looked at her. What have you done to make me trust you? Sakura asked him. He knows the answer, but he does not want to admit it, a voice said from behind Sakura. They saw Artemis sitting at the table with an apple in her hand. Kushina-sama, Kakashi muttered as Artemis looked at him before she looked over to Sakura. My brother told me that he gave you gifts, may I see them? She asked Sakura, who nodded and walked over to the small box and handed it over to the moon goddess. Right then, an envelope full one-way tickets on the sun chariot. Artemis said as she looked at the envelope. She picked up the bag of marbles. So that is what he did. He once used storage marbles filled with small parts of land, buildings, and other things, the goddess said. Before she put the bag of marbles down, she pulled out a scroll. And a scroll filled with cloths, Artemis said before she nodded and put the scroll down. How are you here? Kakashi asked her. Gods cannot really die. Kakashi and I was in a mortal body where I would be killed by the fox, Artemis told him as she handed the box back to Sakura. But I come here to say that the sooner those that wish to join my son leave Konoha, the better, she told Sakura, who looked confused along with Kakashi. What do you mean? He asked her. As the goddess of the moon, I shall make sure that anyone who calls themselves a Konoha ninja is not safe during the night when they are under the moon. The forest that is around them will now turn on them, Artemis told them, both of them looking shocked. The other gods shall be brought their judgment to Konoha. My father shall be making sure that Konoha shall no longer see the sun. My aunt shall make Konoha's crop yield half. The doctors of Konoha shall only save half of their normal thanks to my brother. And that is only 4 is 13. Artemis informed the two of them as the two looked at her. Kakashi said nothing as Sakura looked at the goddess. Tsunade-sensei has said that my training in medical ninjutsu will be over in about 2 months, given how quickly I am learning it with the aid of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Sakura told Naruto's mother. I see, then. Know that those of Ichiraku have already left Konoha and have been taken to my son's village, Artemis told the two before she looked at Sakura. Sakura Haruno, know this. While my son has to marry other women to recreate the Uzumaki clan, and while I gather those that are spread to the winds, you're to be his first wife, she told the pink-haired girl who bowed to the goddess. I understand Kushina-sama, Sakura said as Artemis smiled at her. My name is Artemis, the goddess said before she turned into light and faded. Kakashi said nothing. As he left the apartment, Sakura looked over to the table where her supper was and found a meal in its place. She smiled as she started to eat. Nara compound. Shikamaru looked through his backpack once more before he nodded to himself and put it on his back. He had already risen as a Konoha ninja. And so he was dealing towards the apartment block where Sakura was, as she was now the owner and had given him an apartment until she was ready to go. "So you're leaving?" his father's voice said as the boy stopped. "Yes," Shikamaru said as he turned to the man with something in his hand and gave it to the boy. "What's this?" he asked as he took the things into his hand. "The scroll is all the Nara clan jutsu that you have yet to learn, and a new shogi board," Shikaku told his son, who looked at him. "All of yous know what you're planning to do. Me, Choza, Inoichi, Sume, and Shibi. The only one that does not know is that fool Hiyashi. He still thinks that his oldest is not worth anything and his nephew is going to bring new blood into the Brach family," the man told his son with a shake of his head. He sighed. "While we do not like what you're doing, we understand why, and while we cannot leave Konoha, we still want to make sure that you have the right tools you will need," Shikaku told his son, who smiled at his father. "Thanks, Dad," he told his father as he put on the backpack, took hold of the shogi board, slipped the scroll into his pocket, and walked out. "Was that a good idea?" the man's wife asked as she watched her son leave the compound. "I do, Yoshino, it's like what the others are doing," Shikaku said as he saw that some of the others had joined Shikamaru, and he smiled. "We are making sure that he has a bright future," he said his wife. The next day, Land of Fangs, Auto Hideout. Orochimaru watched Sasuke train as one of his ninjas walked over to him. "Orochimaru-sama, I bring news of Kiri," she told the Sannin. "Oh, what have you learned?" Orochimaru asked as he turned to her. "The Yondaime Uzukage was killed by Naruto Uzumaki, and I saw that he not only fought Yagura on equal ground but also delivered the final blow to the cage," the woman said as Orochimaru rubbed his chin. "I see, what can you report?" he asked her. "Uzumaki seemed to be leaving a village of his own. I do not know what the village is called, but the experiments that were in the Land of Hot Water hideout were there on his side as his ninja," she told him as he narrowed his eyes. "So what is why the base was leveled to the Go-Rund?" he muttered before she said something that shocked him. "Both Tayuya and Kimimaro are working for him as well, with Kimimaro no longer suffering from his illness, and both of their seals have been altered," she said as the man nodded. "So they live then," Orochimaru muttered before he looked over to Sasuke, started to think, and smiled. "My dear, I have a job for you. It's time that your body becomes useful to young Sasuke to bring back the Uchiha clan, and if you aid in this effort, I shall grant you power, the power that will kill the one you hate," he told her as she bowed to him. "I understand, Orochimaru-sama," she told him as she went to Sasuke's room. "Sasuke," the snake Sannin called out as the Uchiha stopped. "I have a plan to aid you in bringing back the Uchiha, but first, you must have an heir," he told the boy. "And how am I going to do that?" Sasuke asked the man. "I have sent a kunoichi to your room, and if it is her time, make sure she is pregnant with your child by the end of the night," Orochimaru told him. Sasuke nodded, and he walked out. "What are you planning?" Kabuto asked as he walked over. Orochimaru smiled at him. "I'm going with my original plan, create a village and make Konoha fall. But I will not rule the village. Sasuke will, and I will act in the shadows," he told the teen, who nodded. "And for that, every cage needs an heir, but right now, I want you to do something for me," Orochimaru told his right hand, who nodded. "And that is?" Kabuto asked with a smile. "Go grave robbing, make sure that you get DNA of people with Kekkei Genkei, no matter what Kekkei Genkei it is. And we will grow our numbers, thought thous clones, like I'm doing for Shin and Sasuke," Orochimaru told Kabuto, who nodded and walked out. Land of Whirlpools, Uzu Hospital. Rin and Amaru stood in front of the canisters that held the clones of the Uchiha clones as they looked at the old data. "From what it looks like, we just need for the doctors to use jutsu," Rin said as she looked at the chart. "So it seems I'll get the first blood pack," Amaru said as she walked out. When she did, a man dressed in scrubs walked in. He had short black hair and burgundy-red eyes. "Hello, Rin," he said as she looked at him. "Hello, Kokyu. Amaru is getting the first blood back from the cooler," Rin said as the man nodded. "Alright then," Kokyu told her as he looked at the chart. "A female clone first, huh?" he said as Rin nodded. "Yep, that is how Itachi and Azumi want it. When more of your clan join the hospital, we can do 2 at a time, but let's start with this today," Rin said as Amaru returned holding a blood bag. "So who is the first woman?" she asked as Rin put the chart down. "Kengai of the Kijin clan," Amaru said as she handed the Tetsuchi member. She and Rin then walked over to the machine and started looking over the tubes before handing them to Kokyu. "Alright, let's begin," he said as he attached the tube to the blood bag and put the blood bag on an IV drip stand. The man formed the tiger seal with only his middle fingers as the blood started to flow quickly down the tube and into the liquid around the clone. Kokyu kept the seal as the floating blood moved through the liquid and into the clone. Once the last blood was in the clone, Kokyu changed his hand seal to the rat seal. "Irio Ketten, Shinjitsuchi Chiyu." He called out as the results started to change right away. The head became softer, and the body became more childlike. The skin gained some color, and the pure white hair turned black and floated in the water. He lowered the seal as he looked at Rin. "The procedure is complete," he told her as she walked up and started to drain the liquid as the body lay on the floor. A few members of the Nekohito clan walked in wearing the same as Kokyu, gently lifting the child onto a bed. They walked out with the three following behind them. As they went into a room with Itachi and Izumi looking at the child, "How is she?" Izumi asked as she looked at the sleeping little girl. A doctor walked over, and as the nurses started to make sure that everything was alright, "Yes, we just need to run a few tests, and once they are done, we will be able to inform you," she told him as the two older Uchiha nodded at her. They attached an IV to the girl, and after hearing the heart and testing the blood pressure, the doctor smiled at Itachi and Izumi. "She's fully healthy, so what would you like to name her?" she asked the two. "Su Uchiha," Izumi said as the doctor nodded and wrote this down. "Alright, Su is going to need 3 nights in the hospital, so we can help her build up her fat and muscles and administer the right shots she will need," the doctor said as Itachi nodded at her. "How old is she, Hara?" Itachi asked the woman. "After doing some tests, she is around 10 years old, Hara said as she looked at him. "Thank you," Itachi told her as she walked out. "Hey, quick question," Izumi asked as Hara stopped. "Yes," she asked the woman. "What is with the scrub colors?" she asked Hara. "Oh, black is for the doctors, and red is for the nurses," Hara said, smiling at her before she walked out. Both Itachi and Izumi smiled at the sleeping Su. "Our clan is on the way back now," Izumi said, and Itachi nodded with a small smile. "It is," he told her as he looked at the girl. "She looks like my mother," Itachi said as Izumi nodded. "She does," she told him. Uzukage building. Naruto smiled at the two people across from him. "So, where would you like to have your shop?" he asked them, pointing to a map. "Well, sir, we would like to have it right here," a man said, pointing not far from the Uzukage building. "Alright then, Tsuchi," he told the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, who smiled with his daughter. "I'll contact the builders so that it can be built for you. It should be done within the next few days, and you can start to cook there," Naruto told the man. "That's fine, so long as I can cook ramen," he told the blonde. Naruto pressed the intercom. "Shien, can you contact the builders, please? I would like to speak with them," Naruto told her. "Right away, sir," Shien's voice came through the speaker. Land of Lightning, Kumo, Rakage Building, Rakage Office. The Rakage sat across from two of his ninjas as they spoke to him. He was a dark-skinned man with a large muscular build, blonde hair combed back, and a small mustache and goatee. His face had pronounced cheekbones, teared troughs under his eyes, and a prominent crease across his forehead. He had pointed canines, and his top lip had a darker hue than the bottom. He wore a white haori without a shirt underneath and large, golden bambraces on his wrists. He also had a gold belt around his waist, a boar's face engraved in the center, black pants with torn ends, Kumo nin shin guards, and shinobi sandals. One of his ninjas also had dark skin, a muscular build, white hair, and a goatee. On his right shoulder, he has a kanji tattoo for iron. On his left cheek, he has a tattoo of a bull's horn. His top lip also has a slightly darker hue than his bottom one. He wore oval-shaped sunglasses and a white-colored headband. He also has his village's standard one-strap over one-shoulder flak jacket, a long, red rope belt tied around his waist, the standard Kumo hand and shin guards, shinobi sandals, and a white scarf around his neck. And on his back, he carried 7 swords. Next to him was a woman with long, straight, blonde hair bound with taut bandages and dark eyes, and she wore red lipstick. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple blouse and black pants, both of which had a design similar to clouds, purple fingerless gloves and a chain of blue beads wound around her left hand. She also wore the standard Kumogakure forehead protector, sandals and a kunai holster strapped to her right thigh. She wore bandages around her arms and legs and a red belt around her waist. "Are you both sure about this?" the Raikage asked them, and the man with the sunglasses nodded. "Yes, my brother, it seems that the other Jinchuriki are joining a new village, one after another," the man said as the Raikage looked at the man before turning to the women. "Yugito," he asked, "from what the Nibi have told me, is that through her connection to the other Bijuu? She told me that there is a new Bijuu, the Ribi, but also said that this new village is making sure to keep us all safe," Yugito told her leader. "I see how any of the Jinchuriki are there," the Raikage asked them. 8 out of 10, the other said as the Raikage rubbed his chin. "I see. Are you sure?" he asked the two, and at their nod, "Do you know what village it is called?" the Raikage asked, as both said nothing. The man narrowed his eyes. "What?" the Raikage asked them. "Brother, do not start a war," the other man said. "What do you mean, B?" the Raikage asked the man. "The one that leads that village is not only the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, he also has the Rinnegan, and he's the one that killed the former Uzukage," B told the man who looked unhappy. "Then what should I do, B? I have to keep Kumo safe, and if a small minor village is gaining power, so much power that they could not only take out Kiri, I have to make sure that I do not overlook this," the Raikage told B. Yugito and B looked at each other before they looked at the Raikage. "I think that the two of us should join that village," B said as the Raikage looked at his brother with narrowed eyes. "And there is a reason. If we join them, you can keep us two safe from a group of S-rank terrorists," he told the man. "What do you mean?" the Raikage asked the man. "There is a group called the Akatsuki. They are all S-rank terrorists that plan to bring something back into the world. Something that can bring an end to the world," Yugito said as the Raikage looked shocked. "Who is a part of this group?" he asked as both shook their heads, not knowing. "I see. If I agree to do this, I will need to test him, and there will need to be a marriage between one of his ninja and one of mine, along with himself and one of Kumo," the Raikage told the two of them as they looked at each other. "The Nibi had heard you and sent a message to the Kyuubi, and we're going to have to wait for the response," Yugito said as the man nodded. He then pressed the intercom as a woman's voice came through. "Yes, Asama," she asked. "Mabui, gather Samui, Omoi, and Karui, and call them here," he told her as he shut off the intercom. They waited a few hours as the three Kumo ninja walked into the office before Yugito looked at him. The first is a tall, fair-skinned woman with a curvy figure who generally wears a stoic, aloof expression. She has blue eyes and straight, shoulder-length blonde haircut in an asymmetrical bob style. She wears a very low-cut outfit that displays her sizable cleavage, with mesh armor underneath. She also wears a short skirt and red handguards, high boots, and what appears to be a modified Kumogakure flak jacket that covers her stomach only, similar to a girdle. She also carries a tanto strapped horizontally to her lower back. The second is a dark-skinned kunoichi with long, spiky red hair and amber eyes. She wore a long, short-sleeved dis with frilly edges complete with the Kumogakure flak jacket, two simps, yellow earrings, fishnet stockings, thigh-high boots with white soles and a headband, which she wears like a bandana. She also carries a long sword on her back. The last one was a young, dark-skinned teen with short, spiky, white hair and dark eyes accentuated with eyelashes curving upwards from the corners. He wore a dark outfit consisting of an overlong shirt with a hood, red bandage handguards, Kumogakure shin guards, a black forehead protector, and a Kumogakure flak jacket. He always had a lollipop in his mouth and a carried sword on his back. The leader of the village has been informed and said that if we make our way to the land of waves, we will have a boat pick us up so that we can be brought to that village, Yugito told him as a nodded. "I see. It will take us 2 weeks for use to get there, so make sure that you pack light, B, get Darui and C, we're heading out," he told his ninja, who nodded and made their way out of his office. He sat in his office alone before he got up and walked out. The members of the Konoha 11 who remained in Konoha looked at documents. "Right, it seems that Sakura still has 1 month of training left before we go," Shikamaru told them as they nodded at him. "And most of us have gotten things from Konoha that could aid him, so what has everyone got?" he asked as he pulled out a sheet of paper. Shino was the first one to speak up. "I have managed to gather old information that my clan had on other insects that I plan to expand upon," he told Shikamaru, who nodded and wrote it down. Akamaru and I have been gathering foxes that we can train, Kiba said as they all looked at him. What? He is a fox himself, and with them being in the village, it would be better if he had a clan of fox partners, he said as they nodded at him. I have been gathering exotic foods from Konoha that we can grow over there, Choji told them as they nodded. And with some help from Shikamaru, we are trying to make new foods, like rice that tastes like strawberries, he told them as they looked amazed before they nodded. We already know what Sakura is doing, so let's move on to Hinata, Shikamaru said as he looked at the girl. The mixture for the new dojutsu is almost ready. Sakura told me that the treatment will start in 3 days. Hinata told him as Shikamaru nodded at her before he looked at Neji. I have managed to convince 2 sets of 9 male and 9 female, members Hyuga clan's Brant's family to join us. They will be here next week, Neji told them as they looked pleased. And are they ready for the new dojutsu? Hinata asked her cousin and fiancé. They are, Neji told her with a nod. Alright, do you have a name for the clan and dojutsu? Ino asked the two. The dojutsu will be called Tenkugen, Hinata told them as they nodded at her. And for our clan name, Neji said as he smiled, are we going to be Myobatsu clan? He told them as they smiled at him. Good, Tenten said with a smile before she turned to Lee. What did you get? She asked the teen. About 100 taijutsu scrolls, Lee said as the others. Good, that means the village will be stronger, Shikamaru told them as they nodded at him. I've been gathering everything that could aid Naruto, be it jutsu scrolls, documents that helped the other Hokage, or even stuff that the village deemed worthless as they did not have the brains for it, he told them as they smiled. I've managed to gather as many types of weapons and materials for weapons as I can, Tenten told them as Shikamaru wrote that down. And I've managed to get different types of seeds so we can grow multiple types of plants, Ino said as that was the last thing put down. A knock came at the door, and when Lee walked over and opened the door, he saw a man with bags. Hello, Lee said as he looked at the man. Hey, are going to join my cousin? The man asked them. He was a middle-aged man with olive skin and bright yellow eyes that matched his hair color. He seemed thin yet healthy and wore a simple pair of dark blue pants with a shirt with the sun on it. Lee looked at him as Shikamaru walked over. And who is your cousin? Shikamaru asked. Oh, Naruto Uzumaki. His mum is my dad's twin sister, he said, and the others looked shocked. Kiba looked at him. So, wait, there were other people like Naruto, children of gods, in Konoha? He asked as the man nodded. Yeah, and when our godly parents told us that he was building a village, many of us in Konoha decided that we would go and join him, he said as Tenten smiled. Then welcome. We're just waiting for Sakura to finish her training with Tsunade-sama before he uses the tickets that your dad gave us, she told him as the man nodded at her. I see. Oh, and my name is Hajime Taiyama, son of Apollo, he said as he introduced himself to them. Outside the apartment complex, the sensei of teams 7, 8, Guy, and 10 stood there, knowing what was happening. So they're really planning on leaving, Asuma said as he lit another cigarette while they looked at the building. So it seems, and can you blame them, Kurenai said as she sighed. Konoha has lost its youth ever since Naruto had been banished, Guy said as he spotted another few more people heading towards the apartment complex. Hey, isn't that the woman who was brewed the best wine in Konoha? Kurenai asked as she looked over and saw a young woman with a curvy figure, chin-length dark green hair with a fringe styled into a bob, and light green eyes. She wore a long white fur coat, a dark green form-fitting V-neck dress with a high collar, thigh-high black boots, and several pearl necklaces. Fubiki Kinsake, Asuma said as they knocked on the apartment door next. Land of Whirlpools, Uzukage Building, Council Chamber. The council chamber was a large room with a model of the Land of Whirlpools in the model of the room in a large bowl. The desk stopped the water from overflowing, and the water acted as it did around the island. Around it was an arching table with 3 seats. In the middle seat sat Naruto, who had a Uzu warrior, one of the female guards that joined from Kiri, and a member of Onmitsukido. To his right sat Benimaru, and on his left sat Jiraiya. The table was connected to benches and high-backed on 5 concentric rings, one slightly higher than the other, surrounding the model of the Land of Whirlpools. From the stairs, on the first level on the right side, there was Temari, who was sitting in the Uzumaki clan seat. Izumi, who was in the Uchiha clan seat, Kimimaro, who sat in the Kakugaya clan seat, and the person who was elected the head of Uzu's agriculture. He was around 20 years old with short black hair, black eyes, and tan skin. He wore a simple white tunic and black pants with a base sash around his waist and a dark blue open jacket on top of his tunic. Next to him sat Rin, who was acting as the hospital administrator. Gaara, the head of the Sabaku clan. Hayabusa, the head of the Tenshi clan. Ibiki, who was in the Kijin clan seat. And Itachi, who was the last on the first level. He was in his entire get-up with his mouth covered and hood down. On the next was the headmaster of the Uzu Academy. She was a tall, beautiful, canine-eared woman with waist-length white hair. She wore a yukata with dark geometric patterns. Next to her was Masukam, who was in the Aohaiken clan seat, and Rinari was in the Nishimizu clan seat. Next to her sat the head of Uzu's bank, a man with square features and short, dark blue, spiked hair. A differing feature is his arrow-shaped eyebrows and a slightly shorter face. He wore a simple black suit. Next to him sat Benimaru's sister, who sat in the barrier team's head seat, and next to her sat a woman with chin-length blonde hair, which she wore swept back with a headband, a long fringe over the right side of her face, covering her eye. She has thin, yellow, inward-tilting eyes with slit pupils and notably sharp teeth, platinum scales running down her arms and legs, with a pair of mighty dragon-like wings on her back. She wore a dark red, traditional kipao with a pale green scaled trim around her shoulders, which seems only to be slit on the left side, with yellow claw patterns on the bottom and smaller ones around her neck. She wears knee-high boots and a strap around her exposed thigh. She wears long, almost sleeve-like white gloves that nearly reach her shoulders, with higher tabs on the outer sides, and they expose her hands from the wrist. She was the leader of the clan of people with dragon scales and wings, the Ryujin clan. Arabi sat next to her in the Manamikaze clan seat. In contrast, a member of the Kijin clan sat next to her as the head blacksmith, and then, next to him sat Umichi in the Tatsuchi clan seat. Above them sat Shirayuki, sitting in the Nekohito clan seat while the head builder sat beside her. They were tall, middle-aged men with blue hair and similarly colored lips. He wore a red and orange striped jacket over an unbuttoned orange shirt with a wide collar, black suit pants, and black shoes. Seizu sat next to him in the Azumahi clan seat, while the head of the Shikan clan, a clan with bat-like wings, was next to her. They were a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous body, appearing in her early 20s. She had back-length silver hair, a long braid on each side, and small blue bows at the ends. At the same time, the rest is let down, ending in twin braids and silver eyes. She wears a black shirt with golden caramel accents at the edges of the shirt and spread horizontally near the bottom, with two light golden trims going down the shirt. The sweater splits slightly above her stomach, exposing her midriff. Around her neck and shoulders is a long, cyan scarf made from light material that reaches her hips. Her jeans are blue, with a white outline at the top. And on her back was a pair of bat wings. Yuzo sat in the Kitayama clan seat next to Hai, who sat in the Hinotama clan seat. The last was a short man with short, spiky, creamy blonde hair and dark blue eyes. One thick lock of hair curled back, and he wore a large, black cape over his clothes. He was the clan leader who could turn their body into lightning and was named the Raiju clan. "Thank you all for coming," Naruto called out. They nodded at him, and he pulled out the bag of coins from the gods. "As you all know, I am a demigod and have some good news. Hiraku had told me that our farms are up and going well," he told them as the head of agriculture nodded. "Yes, they are, Naruto-sama. We are looking well with all the fruit, vegetables and wild game. We should be able to keep going well," he said as people smiled. "That's good, but I have something that can help," he told them as he held up the bag. "This bag holds 14 coins, 1 coin for each god in the Council of the Pantheon that my mother is part of," Naruto told them as he pulled out coins and put them on the desk before him. The council looked at the coins, and Izumi looked at him. "Who do each of these coins correspond to?" she asked him. He held 1 coin up and showed that on the back was the symbol of a lightning bolt. "This one belongs to my grandfather, and they can grant 1 wish, but the wish has to belong to the god that the coin belongs to, and with how the village is now thriving, I was thinking that it was time to spend these wishes," Naruto told them as they nodded at him. "Alright, so how are we doing this?" the head of the Raiju clan asked as they all turned to him. Should we go by the leader and then down to the last or go from 14 to 1? He asked as Shirayuki narrowed her eyes. I saw we go from the leader of the gods and then down, she said as others nodded. Alright then, Jiraiya said as he looked at the first coin as Naruto got ready to flip it. So, what are the rules of these wishes? He asked his student. They have to be realistic, and they have to work for the god to have the authority over the subject of the wish. Naruto told him as Benamari cupped his chin. I see, so we can't ask the god of the wind for all our harvests to be plentiful, he said as Naruto nodded. That's right, and so the first coin belongs to Zeus, my grandfather, and he is the god of the sky, lightning and thunder, and king of the gods in Olympus, Naruto told them as they all looked at each other. I think that Uzu can never fall is a good first wish, Hayabusa said as the others nodded. Alright then, Fchomai de Koryo Uzugakir na min pese pate. Naruto called out as he tossed the coin into the air. It glowed a bright blue and started to disintegrate into golden dust. They all felt the ground shake, and thunder roared in the air. The wish has been granted, Naruto called out, and people nodded. Who is the second one? Itachi asked them as Naruto pulled up the second coin. This one belongs to me, mother's stepmother, Hera, goddess of marriage and family, queen of the gods and patroness of women. Naruto told them as they all started to speak with one another. I think that we should wish that we could never run out of food, Umichi said, and everyone agreed. Naruto nodded as he picked up the coin. Fchomai de Koryo Uzugakir na min zamine pate apo fagito, he called out as he flipped it in the air. It glowed a peacock green and disintegrated into golden dust. Then, a peacock of green energy was sent out in a ring that washed over the village. The next god is Poseidon, and I think I speak for all of us when I think that we should ask for the water to have fish to catch, Naruto called out as Hayabusa nodded. Fchomai ta nira yiro apo ti koratun diovalon na min zamainun pate apo seria kai thalasia zoi. The Uzukage called out as he tossed the coin in the air as it glowed sea green, and then like the coin before it released a ring of energy that once hit the water. Fish started to school, octopi finding homes, and other sea life began to form around Uzu. The next one is for Demeter, and I talked with Shadow about this. We're thinking about wishing that all our harvests were plentiful so when we start to sell to Iwa and Suna, Naruto said as they looked at Itachi. They all nodded and agreed with Naruto. Fchomai ali I sadea sti koratun diovalon na inii de plasia. The blonde called out as he tossed the coin. The coin acted like the other two but released an emerald green energy ring that glowed green for a few seconds before the light stopped when it reached the farms. Now we have the coin that has a wish for Ares, god of war, violence, battle lust, and rage. Naruto told them as the ninjas started to speak with one another before they nodded. How about we win every major battle Uzu gets in? Arabi said as the others looked at her, and they all nodded. Alright then, Naruto said as he tossed the coin in the air. Fchomai se kata megali maki pu vriskatai de koryo Uzugakir na vigane nikaitis, he called out as the coin disintegrated. All ninjas of Uzu glowed faint red for 2 seconds. Well, this is going good so far, and we are 5 down and only 9 to go, Izumi said as the others nodded. True, and next we have Athena, goddess of wisdom, reason, strategy, warfare, crafts and arts, the Uzukage told them as they looked at each other before Kimimaro stood up. How about all locations of auto bases? He asked as the others looked at him, and the sage nodded. It would be good to know what that snake is up to, Jiraiya said, and the clans created because of him nodded. Fchomai tin tapathesia jia kata vasi pu aniki santo koryo otogakure. Naruto called out as he tossed the coin in the air as it glowed gray and turned into golden dust before it turned into a scroll that landed on the desk in front of Naruto. He then handed it over to Jiraiya as Naruto lifted the next coin. This one belongs to my uncle, Apollo, god of the sun, archery, healing, plagues, poetry, and prophecy and truth, he said as he looked at Rin. And we cannot wish every patient to be cured every time, as it is impossible, Naruto told her. Then what about they can only save and successfully treat 95% of patients? Benamaru's sister asked as Naruto nodded and tried again. Fchomai oi jiatroi kai iatrikoi nintsa tu koryu uzugakir na boresun na sosun tu enaninta pente twa akato tun esthenin tus. The blonde called out as he flipped the coin in the air and it dissolved and all the doctors and medial ninja glowed yellow. Next is my mother, and the wish I have in mind is an abundance of animals to hunt, he said as the others nodded at him. Fchomai ta edafi tis choras tun diovalan na achun aftona zoa gia na kinajisun, Naruto called out as he tossed the coin in the air. As it dissolved, releasing a silver energy ring that once reached the forest, deer, rabbits, and other animals started to walk out of it. Anyway, the next coin belonged to Hephaestus, god of blacksmiths, forges and fire, Naruto told them as the blacksmith cupped his chin in thought before he looked at his leader. Could we wish for an endless supply of materials to use? He asked as the others looked at each other. Kurobe, that wish might be asked too much, but let me try, Naruto told him as he lifted the coin. Fchomai ta edafi tis gis tun diovalan na echuna telioto apothema metalon kai wilakan, he called out as he tossed the coin in the air as it then disintegrated before the land shook as the diorama of the land of whirlpools shifted. It showed that a mountain was growing. Well, our island now has a mountain with all types of metals within, and there are other types of trees as well, the leader of the builders of Uzu said as he and Kurobe nodded at each other. Next, we have Aphrodite, goddess of love, beauty, lust and duality, and that it should be Touré love, Naruto told them as they all nodded. Fchomai ali iagapi sta edafi tis choras tun diovalan na ini alithini, he called out as he flipped the coin in the air as it disintegrated. Every person who called the land of whirlpools home gave off a slight pink glow. We only have 4 more wishes to make and then this meeting can be over, Benimaru told everyone as Naruto lifted the coin. This one belongs to Hermes, god of thieves, travelers, trade, merchants, roads and messenger of the gods, and I think that all our merchants should be successful, he told them as they nodded at him. We agree, Seizu called out as others nodded with her. Fchomai ooloi emporoi tun ediphone tis gis tun diovalan na achun epitikia, Naruto called out as he tossed the coin in the air as it disintegrated. And some people within Uzu gave off a brown glow. The next is Dionysus, god of wine, madness and ecstasy, Naruto told everyone as the leader of the Ryujin clan stood up. I think we should wish for people to come to Uzu to build a brewery that we can then tell within and out of Uzu, she told Naruto, who looked surprised before he nodded. I can agree to that. Fchomai na erthe cosmos santo koryo Uzugakir gia na ftиxa anazythopoeo, the Uzukage called out as the coin disintegrated and it formed a purple portal as people stepped out. One was a tall, light-skinned man with high cheekbones, gray eyes and long wavy brown hair. His hair is tied in a long ponytail, and long bangs frame the left side of his face. He also has noticeable body hair on his chest, feet, and arms. He wears a Sugagasa straw hat and a pink, flowered lady's kimono, which he drapes across his shoulders and over his yukata. Hello, he said as he looked at the people in the room. Who are you? Itachi asked as the man looked around before he saw the portal that closed. So that is where Dad sent me, the man muttered before he looked at others. Hey, my name is Shunchi, he introduced himself. So you brew alcohol? Izumi asked as Shunchi nodded at her. Yep, he told her as Naruto turned to the Onmitsukido beside him. Can you escort him to my office so he can find a spot where he can build? He asked them as they nodded. He vanished and reappeared next to Shunchi and the group of people before they walked out of the council room. The 13th coin is attributed to Hades, god of the underworld and riches, Naruto told them as they all whispered before nodding. Can you wish that Uzu never runs out of money? The head of Uzu's bank asked. Fchomai to koryo Uzugakir na min zamine pate apochromata, Naruto called out as he tossed the coin in the air before it disintegrated and the ground shook as people nodded. One wish left, Tamari said as her brother nodded. Yeah, and it belongs to Hestia, goddess of hearth, home and family, Naruto told them as Gaara looked down before he nodded. How about we wish that no family that lives in Uzu should be separated, he said as Temrise smiled at her little brother. Naruto gets the final wish, and when the coin disintegrates, everyone within Uzu feels warmth. After a few people brought problems to Naruto, the meeting ended. Naruto, Jiraiya, Benimaru, Kimimaro, and Itachi went to Naruto's office and met with the people who walked through the portal. Hello, Naruto said as he walked behind his desk and pulled out a map. So, where would you like to open your brewery? He asked the man, who looked down at the map before he picked a spot. Right there please. Shunchi pointed at a point close to the farms. We should be able to create brandy, wine, sake, and other types of alcohol there, and with that access to the water, we can get the water in better, he told them as Naruto nodded as he wrote something down before he handed it over to Shunchi. Head over to the president of the Galila company, and he will be able to build the brewery for you, he told the man as he and the people he came with left. Naruto's smile vanished as he unrolled the scroll Athena had sent them. Here are all the bases, Naruto said, and they all looked shocked. It looked like Orochimaru had a base everywhere. He has one in the land of water, Itachi said as he looked at the map. So it would seem, Naruto said as he looked at it before he saw that the dot was a seal. He released what was inside, and he looked at it. Right, the base in the land of water was put there with the help of Yagura, so Itachi sent out Team Alpha. I would like to know what is going on, he told the teen, who nodded. And from what it looks like, there is also one on our island, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and looked over to Kimimaro. Me and you are heading over there and seeing what they have. There, Naruto told the bone user, who nodded. The blonde then handed the scroll over to Jiraiya. I want to know everything about all the auto bases, he told the sage, who smiled. It will be an easy job, Jiraiya said as he accepted the scroll and walked to his office. The next day, Land of Fire, Konoha, Crimson Complex, main foyer. Sakura looked at Shikamaru as the two sat at a table with all the documents they had managed to gather. So we now have every demigod within Konoha in this apartment complex, and they are then waiting for me to finish my training so that we can leave? Sakura asked as Shikamaru nodded. Yeah, and I've had to get the names of their godly parents so that I can get a good head count, he told her as he lifted a piece of paper. We have 2 daughters of Zeus, a son of Jupiter, a son of Poseidon, a daughter of Neptune, a son of Hades, 2 daughters of Pluto, 5 sons and 2 daughters of Demeter, 3 sons and a daughter of Ceres, Shikamaru told her before he turned the paper over. We have 10 children of Athena, 5 sons and 5 daughters, and 2 sons of Minerva. We have 4 children of Apollo and another 4 children of a different form of Apollo, Shikamaru said as Sakura looked confused. What do you mean a different form of Apollo? She asked him. Well, as I talked with Naruto's former personal doctor, he said that Naruto's mother has 2 forms, Artemis and Diana, and while they are both Naruto's mother, Artemis has 4 nephews from one Apollo, and Diana has 4 nieces, Shikamaru told her as she nodded and nodded at her. We then have 5 sons and 6 daughters of Ares, 9 daughters of Mars, 2 sons of Hephaestus, 3 daughters and 2 sons of Vulcan. Then we have 10 sons and 10 daughters of Hermes, and 10 sons and 10 daughters of Mercury, he told her before he put the paper down and then he picked up another one. Next had 6 daughters of Aphrodite and 6 sons of Venus, 2 daughters of Dionysus and 2 sons of Bacchus, Shikamaru said before he nodded and looked at the others on the list. And that is only the children of the main god of the same pantheon of gods, he told her as he put the paper down. So we have a lot of demigods, Sakura muttered as she looked at the other papers. Land of Whirlpools, Auto Base. Naruto and Kimimaro walked up to a base that looked to be built into the side of a rock wall. So what did they do at this base? Naruto asked Kimimaro as the two looked at the wall. I believe that this one had been used for some form of storage, Kimimaro said. Naruto nodded and held out his hand. He formed a Rasengan in his hand as he walked over to the rock wall and shoved the Rasengan into the wall. When the spinning ball of death met the wall before it started to crumble, 2 Auto Ninja looked shocked as Kimimaro jumped forward and formed bone blades out of his hands before he cut them down. And when a third ran forward, Naruto appeared before them, taking them by the throat and lifting them. So can you tell me what you are doing here? Naruto asked with a smile as he clammed his neck around the man's throat. The Auto Ninja said nothing before Naruto sighed and put his hand on the man's head. So it would seem that Orochimaru ordered us to guard all the weapons that were being created for Auto, the blonde said. The ninja looked shocked before Naruto pulled his arm away. The ninja fell to the floor dead. There are 5 other Auto Ninja here, the Uzukage told Kimimaro. They walked into the base soon and screams from the Auto Ninja followed. When Kimimaro and Naruto walked out with a large scroll on Naruto's back before the blonde formed, the snake seal behind trees started to grow out of the ground. A forest burst out of the ground within the base. 3 days later, late at night, Land of Fire, Konoha, Konoha Hospital, Room 99H. Hinata lay in bed in a hospital bed while she was dressed in a hospital gown as Sakura and Tsunade stood on either side of the bed. They both went over the pressure as other members of the Hyuga clan stood across from her. Some had long dark blue hair, and some had black hair. "Alright then, it's time to start the surgery," Tsunade told her as she and Sakura started. They knocked out Hinata and began working on her. Shizune then walked in with 3 vials. One of cyan liquid, one of dark purple liquid, and one of red liquid. Shizune and Sakura started hooking the liquids to the IV drops, and then they put needles into Hinata. "We're starting to inject the artificial chakra, positive chakra, and negative chakra," Tsunade called out as they started injecting the 3 types of chakra into Hinata's chakra system. Once all 3 chakras were injected into Hinata, she was outlined in a dark red chakra before she left. Her eyes shot wide as her eyes started to change color. At the same time, she let out a pillar of chakra. Sakura looked shocked, along with the members of the Hyuga clan. In contrast, Tsunade looked within the chakra before she started looking at the IV drips. And when Sakura saw her sensei act like that, she shook it off and began to work on Hinata with Tsunade. She is coming along well, and she is nearly finished with her training, and so much so that she is going to join the Geki soon, Tsunade thought with a smile. The two started to work on Hinata for a while as the chakra pillar was pulled back into Hinata. "And now, add the blood of the Uchiha clan into her," Sakura said as she attached the blood back up. They attached a vein, and Tsunade started to use medical ninjutsu to allow the blood to flow into her veins. As her eyes changed from a pale lavender, the irides were enlarged. Dark purple with a darkened sclera and visible pupil before her newly activated pupils turn a solid white filled with overlapping lavender flower patterns. "It seems that the creation of a new dojutsu has been successful," Tsunade said when all the chakra looked over Hinata. "It would seem that," Neji nodded as he looked at Hinata. "How will we gain this?" a female member of the Hyuga clan asked as she looked at the sleeping Hinata. "Well, you do not have to go through the same procedure," Tsunade said as the others looked shocked. "What you will have is to eat a chakra meal. With a sample of Hinata's chakra being within the food, that will then release into your chakra network, and so it will awaken this new dojutsu," she told them as they released sighs before another medical ninja walked in with a tray of small medical balls. The Hyuga clan members all started to take the medical balls. Each of them then felt some pain as their eyes changed to the same eyes as Hinata. "Now then, we just need a name for our new dojutsu?" A woman on a dark road with long dark blue hair asked. "We'll call it the Tenkugen," Hinata said as she woke up. The others looked at her. "And our new clan name is Myobatsu," she told them as they nodded at her. They looked at Neji, who stood by Hinata, "And as we are married, thanks to your father, I name you the head of the Myobatsu clan," he told her as she nodded at him. "I accept," she told him as she looked at the other members of her new clan. 1 week later, Crimson Complex, main foyer. Sakura stood with everyone, leaving with Konoha. They had gathered all the equipment, documents, and everything else into scrolls, which they sealed into scrolls. "Is everyone ready?" Sakura asked as she held up the envelope with Konohamaru, Moyage, and Udon standing beside her. "It looks like it," one of the Apollo children said as the others nodded. "Okay, then," Sakura said as she opened the envelope. Everyone started to glow golden before they all vanished and reappeared in a train compartment. And Apollo stood before them dressed as a train conductor. "Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sun Chariot. Can I have a look at your tickets?" he said with a smile, and his children let out sighs. Sakura handed over the tickets, and he nodded, and everyone started to sit down. He then walked over to the leading train car and started the train. It pulled away from the village as dark clouds started to form over it, and darkness began to steepen into the forest. "It seems that Konoha has started its punishment," Kiba said as he did not look or sound bothered by that fact. The others nodded with him as they looked back at their former home before looking forward to their new home. Land of Whirlpools. Naruto stood on the waters around the Land of Whirlpools, not far from the gates, as red and black chakra formed around him. This created a skeletal avatar of black chakra that glowed red, making it look like crimson. The avatar had a cloven horn on either side of its skull, and all the teeth were fangs. Naruto formed the snake seal while another, the skeletal avatar, formed 4 arms. All 3 sets of hands, and they formed 3 different hand seals. Tengai Shinsei, Naruto called out as a massive shadow fell over the village. Everyone watching from the side of the town looked up and saw meteorites falling towards the sea. They crashed into the water, making waves, while members of the Nishimizu clan stood on the water's edge and moved the water out of the village. Once the water calmed down, it showed that Naruto had called out 9 meteors. Alright, we're going to need to build bridges over to them, but they can act as a defense from the sea, Naruto said as he walked back onto the land as the chakra avatar faded away. Iceberg, you can use the ships to get to the island so we can build the defenses into them, he told the blue-haired man, who nodded at him. Understood. I'll get them ready as soon as possible, Iceberg told Naruto before he walked away and gathered his workers. A train whistle sounded as Naruto turned to see the sun chariot pull up to the docks. The citizens of Uzu looked at each other as Apollo walked out of the main train and over to a train car. Hello, little nephew, Apollo said as he unlocked the train car. He started letting people out as everyone within looked at Naruto. And Sakura walked up to Naruto. We all pledge ourselves to you and your village, she told Naruto as he looked at the others as they nodded with Sakura. Alright then, Naruto said with a smile as Sakura handed him a bag of marbles. What are these? He asked her. They are a late birthday present from me, Apollo said as the sun chariot turned into a sailing boat. They have things that can give money to Uzu, and by the degree of your mother, Sakura Haruno will be your main wife, the sun god told Naruto, who looked shocked as he looked at Sakura before he smiled. Alright, Naruto said, smiling at her and leading people into the village. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.